Oh, now we're live. Oh, my Lord. StreamYard. Good morning. Sprung. It didn't go live on my thing. Hang on. We'll be back.
Hey, we're right here.
Like and subscribe, it's all we need. Alternature or here to speak. And defense, let's take a peek. Collaborating for your eyes. Sharing content, no surprise. Together we shine brighter than one. Join our journey, it's just begun. Like and subscribe, hit that bell. Enjoy the show and wish us well.
Hello. Yeah, see, I have to remove us and put us back.
That's weird because I don't have to.
Yeah. Hello.
Sorry, Flash
Welcome
fan.
morning.
It
scared us.
too.
I'm waiting for the music to start and we're still sitting there.
2 days in a row. That means tomorrow we'll get it
Yes, that's all right.
right. We'll get it right.
It happens. Morning, Bob.
Yes, good to
Morning,
see you,
Gabby.
Bob. Gabby, be careful.
Who else is in? Well,
Gabby's
we're all here.
Gabby's going on a date
Happy little family. Was it
today
happy?
with her husband, so she won't
Aw.
be. She'll be around a little bit this morning, but then
Is it a picnic?
I think they're going to the movies.
No, she doesn't like creepy crawlies, does she?
Yeah, I think she said they were going to the movies.
Hey, the Hef.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Christine. Everybody
Flash-
up in the house.
Flash fan, I'm glad we could be your alarm clock. Get up.
My laugh will wake you up every time.
Don't worry. We scared
It's
ourselves.
got me into a lot of trouble over the years, trust me. Everyone used to make a joke when I was at school, and the only person that they could hear was me. Something funny, Miss Bolt?
That's like, probably.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I would have just said, hello, Christine. Sorry, I didn't even have the right chat up. I'm looking at your chat and my chat going, where's the chat? That's great.
So we're in the middle of day 2 of this tattoo punch trial. You finished up yesterday with the gentleman with the beard who was he the mate? Was he
Brian? Yeah, he was the other guy that was there. So we went through the wife, the friend of the wife.
Laura?
Lauren?
Laura?
I don't know. Something.
The blonde one.
I thought she had a little attitude on her with the
Yes,
defense.
Yes.
And to the judge. And that's
and we had a little bit of a music issue.
Oh, gosh. I haven't.
No emails? That's good.
No emails.
Excellent. Excellent.
So I don't have that. I figured, excuse me. Then Bob, I was reading Bob. Yes, Gabby, Abraham Beard Lincoln. That was Brian. His version of events contradicted the wife's version of events, which was interesting.
Yeah, because she said she saw Josh with the stool, but she didn't see anybody else. She didn't see the punch through the window. I didn't actually watch all of his testimony. I fell asleep.
Yeah, well, but he didn't put her there. He put her inside.
Yeah, she said she was inside and only saw through the window.
But I thought she also said that she came running out because the defense was like, where were you standing when he threw the stool? She was there. She said she was outside.
Laura or the wife?
The wife.
Oh,
Laura,
I missed that then.
The friend was inside, but he put Jen inside too. Like that she came out after. And like, that's not what, it doesn't matter. It's, I don't know why we haven't seen video from outside, because we did see video from outside when he was on the ground. Why haven't we seen video on the
Yeah.
outside of it happening instead of just this inside stuff from the pharmacy? If there's, unless that was body cam video of him on the ground, maybe that was that. I don't remember.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I was listening but skimmed it because I was tired.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
sort of
no,
watched it in
I
bed
don't blame you.
just to catch up so that I knew what we were doing.
But like I said, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he hit the guy. The guy fell. He knocked the guy out, I believe.
Whether he had an open hand or a closed fist.
Doesn't matter. The guy's not here anymore.
Correct.
And you
were the last one that touched him.
And he was the aggressive one the whole entire time. Because
from the get-go.
Yeah, because that Josh Davies tried to just kind of laugh it off. Now, I'm not blaming him for sticking his head back in the door and yelling, why are you still talking to whatever? Yeah. It wasn't nice. I'm not blaming him for that, but that set off the chain of events of him going, like, just escalated it.
Yeah. So did we establish that the defendant is the owner?
No, we did not establish that. It is Gabby. It's a lot like that trial. That was, I don't know if you know about it. It's in Ohio. And there's this thing called a splatter. I have to use pew pew, and it shoots fires, like balls soaked with water. And these kids drove up in the dark to these other kids playing basketball and started firing that. And it's loud. They thought it was real. Chased the other kids down. All these are high schoolers. I think all but maybe one. Chased the kids back to the car and ended up hitting one who fell, hit the back of his head, and passed away. All over this stupid thing that these kids did. But the other kids, where they lived, the lifestyle they lived, they thought it was real. They were scared for their lives. The other kids didn't live that life. So
they just thought it was fun.
They just thought it was funny.
And the other guys took it seriously.
They were scared.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So it's just, it is kind of the same way. But that guy just should have I'm not victim blaming. He just should have kept his mouth shut and walked away. Just keep going. Yep. Just keep
I don't know why the girls stayed there. Why would you kick your husband out and then stay?
I don't know.
I've gone.
I don't know.
Left. That's why.
And it's, yes, because had neither one of them had alcohol, nothing would have happened.
I have a little bit of whilst I was watching yesterday, I was doing a few clips on that. So yes, I've got, yeah.
They'd both still be here. He wouldn't be sitting in that chair and the guy'd still be here.
Where is it?
They could be happy.
Here we go. So one-punch assaults are characterized by a single severe blow to the head, causing the victim to lose consciousness, resulting in a secondary impact between the head and surrounding environment, causing permanent brain injury or death. This study examined the characteristics and changing trends of one-punch deaths in Australia. The National Coronal Information System was used to examine all close coronal cases between 2012 and 2018. To compare with data from the previous study examining cases between 2000 and 2012. There were 81 punch fatalities in Australia then, and the median age increased from our previous study of 33 years to 43 and a half, with males continuing to comprise almost all cases. There was a decreased trend in deaths annually, but most occurring in New South Wales and Queensland, and a drop in the proportion of Victorian cases. Alcohol remained the most detected drug, found in 66% of 71 cases where toxicology results were available.
Yep. Yep. It's either a great night
Numbers
or a bad
don't
one.
lie.
Yep. I don't know. I have really been careful to not find out. So
no spoilers.
Jody does know, but no spoilers, please, because I'm gonna find out today.
My lips are sealed.
So, yes, I do not know. I have my suspicions after yesterday.
Oh, oh, look, it's a really dry sandwich.
I
It's
wish
a
Gabby
vertical
wasn't
dry
driving.
sandwich.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late.
Where are you? You're
Where are
invisible.
you? Should I like pledge allegiance to the flag?
Hello.
I haven't put my face on yet.
No, neither have I. You didn't see our intro, obviously. You know
So how is everyone
AJ
today?
Very well.
I-
Well,
We're great.
tired,
We're
but
great.
all right.
Tired. We had another great start.
Yeah, we're there. Yeah. You know how AJ didn't press live stream yesterday before she started the intro. I pressed live stream and then started the intro, but the live stream didn't connect. And so I went to then turn the intro off and then it connected. So with AJ and I was sitting on the screen going,
Hello.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
professionals.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, look, we never claimed to be perfect, did we?
Oh, it is a
It is
you
what it
learn
is.
as you go. You learn
Correct.
live.
I don't think perfect is boring.
Yeah, well, there's no such thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's start us off with a little bit of this.
Probably a couple
Stop it.
hours.
I'm going to tell both of you right now,
Is Miss
despite the
Davies at the hospital
representation
that
that you're all
entire
going to get along, you're bickering like
Yes.
school children. And that is not happening in my courtroom. So you're going to
I
limit
have
that,
nothing further.
particularly when this jury is here. Or I will call both of you up short.
I'm sorry.
Am I clear?
No,
Thank
Yeah.
you. Am I clear?
May this witness be released?
Continue with your argument.
Any objection?
Right.
I think I recorded us all laughing in the background.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what am I hearing? I was trying to make sure everything was.
I'll have to reclip that, and I just boosted the volume. So, all right, shall we start into the second half of day 2?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
have 1, 2, 3, 4 witnesses to get through today. One of them is a defense witness who's taken out of order, and we have the medical examiner. All right, now share screen, Jody. Present. Oh, it's already sitting there.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Nope, it's not. I'm too organized for my own good. All right, now let me know if you can hear it all.
All right. Well, he's
That was
kind
the
of
court
scary
reporter.
looking.
My name is John
Yes,
Laporte.
sorry, hang on.
JON
Introduce.
LA cap.
It is John Laporte, who is a computer consultant by day and a part-time musician at night. So he was in the band who played that evening at the bar.
Okay.
Little PORTE.
Sir, how are you currently employed?
Thank
I am
you.
retired now.
Yeah, I can.
And what kind
It's
of
good
work
for
did
me.
you do?
I was a computer consultant,
Okay.
local area networks.
And did you have any
When I'm not on
side
screen,
jobs
I
that
am.
you used to work?
I still
I
play
never am.
music. I'm a musician.
I never
Okay.
am.
And where do you typically play?
Usually upscale bars and restaurants and private parties, wine bars.
Okay. Have you ever played at a location known as Tabby's Wine Bar in Heartland?
Yes, I actually play there frequently.
Still today?
I still do, yes.
And how often would you say you're at Tabby's?
Probably about once a month.
Okay. And were you there last year on June 17th of 2023?
Yes, I was.
And prior to that, had you been there many times before to
Yes.
perform? Okay. And you know the layout of the facility?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you
Hey, Regina, good
recall that
morning.
there was an incident that occurred at Tabby's
morning,
on the night of
Regina.
June 17th of 2023, correct?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember what time you stopped playing?
It was a little bit after 10. I think it was 10:07.
Okay. And you were done for the evening then?
Correct.
So what did you do after you finished your performance?
As usual, I started packing everything up. put everything in cases, and then eventually I go and get my car. I park that usually right in front of the door, so I can just bring things right out and load it into the car.
Okay. And during this time, when you're packing things up, did something draw your attention inside the box?
Yes, most of the people were gone at that point. There were some people that were coming in to the back entrance of Tabby's.
Oh, the back entrance.
From a party at Beer Snobs. They had a street party
Already?
going on with a band
Yep.
playing. And I could hear the band playing in between my songs because they were pretty loud.
Okay.
And they quit shortly, about the same time I did, probably around 10 o'clock or so. So they were done. So there were people coming in from that party into Tabby's.
Actually, I think she's lost quite a lot of weight just looking at her at this trial from when she was on the Darrell Brooks.
I think
No,
so.
you didn't. Yeah, yes, I think she has.
The back.
And at some point, did something different draw your attention?
Absolutely. Right in front of me, there were 3 tables where a lot of my friends had been sitting during the evening. Like I said, they were all gone at that point.
Okay.
The table furthest from me, there was a large gentleman standing there with a light colored shirt and light colored hair. And the table closest to me then, there were 2 other gentlemen standing there. I mean, I saw people coming in and stuff, but it wasn't until the larger gentleman started yelling at the other 2. And
That's what drew your attention.
that's what drew my attention.
Did you know any of these men prior to this incident?
No, I did not.
Now, as you testify, do you know their names or have at least a first name for these people?
I do, because I've seen articles in the newspaper.
Okay. Do you know the name of the larger man that you were just describing for us?
Kevin Sehmer.
Okay. And of the other 2 men that you described, do you know any names for those individuals?
Josh Davies.
Okay. And the third man, did you ever learn his name?
I think it's Brian.
Okay.
I didn't know his last name.
So if we could going forward to keep your testimony easy to understand, let's use those names, okay? Okay. And the person you knew as Kevin, is he present in this courtroom here today?
Yes, he is.
And can you point out where he's seated and what he's
He's
wearing?
sitting on the end of the table over there.
Okay. And that's the man that you now know to have the first name of Kevin.
Correct.
And you just described for us, you overheard him yelling at the other men.
Correct.
Tell us what you heard.
Couldn't hear a lot because it was kind of loud, but I did hear him saying something about, do you want to take this outside? Do you want a piece of me? The 2 guys standing there, Josh and Brian,
Yes.
were kind of looking at him dumbfounded, not saying much of anything.
So you didn't hear them reply in kind?
No, I didn't.
Did you hear them ever raise their voice
No.
or
Like I
ever
said,
curse?
Pardon?
Did you hear Josh or Brian curse in any way?
No, I did not. Like I said, it was difficult to hear all the words.
Did you hear Kevin Sehmer cursing or using profanity?
Yes, I did. He was much louder than the other 2, so I could actually hear some of his words.
Okay. And your impression was that Josh and Brian were dumbfounded, you said? Did they?
What?
I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I object to her asking what they thought.
That's what his impression was.
His
Overruled.
impression.
Next question.
Did you see them, Josh and Brian, physically approach Mr. Sehmer?
No, they stood at the end of the table there, and he was on the other end.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Sehmer approach Josh and Brian?
At one point, he came around the side of the table, but then he went back, and
See what he did when he got around the side?
he looked like he was pointing at them.
Okay. Do you remember any words that were spoken during this time?
No, I did not.
Okay. And what do you remember next?
As I said, I was packing up my things. I'm going out to the car. I come back in and grab a couple other things, go back out. I remember Josh and his friend Brian walking out of the front door and walking down in front of Tabby's, and there's a pharmacy right next to that. So they're about a half a block from me. And the
Okay.
2 of them were standing there talking.
Okay.
I couldn't hear them. They were too far away to hear what they were saying, but they're just standing there talking.
Okay. Did you see Kevin Sehmer at this point?
No,
Okay.
no, he was still inside. Shortly after that, then
Hang on, let me ask you a question. Did you see Josh and Brian with any women?
inside there were.
Okay.
I guess it was a wife and a friend or a girlfriend or girlfriends or something.
But
Yeah, there
that's
were
just
two
what-
ladies with them.
Okay. Did you know that at the time? The relationship between
I didn't know
Josh-
the relationship. I just
Gabby?
guessed that it was, either a wife or a girlfriend with them. And
Okay. And so when you saw
She's
Josh and
grabbing
Brian
his-
standing out on the sidewalk, did you see the ladies out there at that point?
no, they weren't. They were just out there by themselves.
And Mr. Sehmer was inside still?
Correct.
Okay. What do you remember next, sir?
Then I remember Josh walking back into Tabby's in the front door, and I'm right here at my car,
Okay.
and the door's right here, and I thought, why is he going back in there? They obviously aren't getting along.
What's a motherless crotching bastard?
I do not know. Something in Massachusetts. I don't think we
I
have
think
those
there's a
around
lot of-
here.
There's a lot of code in that message.
Yeah.
Gabby,
No, don't apologize. It's funny.
when are you going to learn? You don't have to apologize. It's hilarious. The first time she did it, I was
Oh,
staring
wow.
at it
Oh,
And I
like,
thought,
what are you?
Did you just
what?
write that?
Like, well, I was trying to figure out I was like, what happened? And she wasn't even talking to any of us because I don't
She
remember what
doesn't
she
even
said, but I could not
know
stop
how it
laughing.
gets on the chat.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the chat, and I don't remember who she was talking to, or she was talking to somebody else, like outside, and but I was looking like, what happened? Because it was, F you something, I don't know, and then
So the whole
She-
conversation came up in chat.
yeah, she said, I'm so sorry. I could not stop laughing. It was so funny. Everybody was laughing.
Is Gabby
because-
driving?
Yes, she's
Yes.
texting, talk to text. So
And she's
It's like
driving
comes
right
up in
now.
chat,
Okay.
and so she's a little road ragey,
No.
just a touch. She's practicing
No.
for when she goes into the city today.
And so they're going to a restaurant or something, are they?
I think a movie, and I don't remember what else she said, but she just said, I have to go to the city. So yeah, it's hilarious.
It is.
Sometimes she's like, do you know what that thing is in front of you? A stop sign. But it's a little more colorful.
Uh-huh. Alrighty.
oh, well, maybe he's going back in to get the girls or something.
Okay. Did you see where he went, how far he went?
He went in the front door. He wasn't in there very long at all, seconds maybe.
Okay.
I don't think he was in there more than 30 seconds when I saw him come back out and walk back over to his friend. He was standing over there with him.
Did you hear Josh say anything when he went back into Tabby's for that one or two
No, I
seconds?
did not.
Okay. Could you hear anybody saying anything? at
No.
that point?
I didn't
Okay.
hear anybody say
Have to wait, sir.
Back of a
Have to
Wheaties
wait for
packet.
the question to be
Okay.
finished before
Sorry.
you answer, all right? Go ahead.
And you were by your car when you were making this observation? Okay,
And my car is right outside the front door there.
okay. And you just told us that Josh then returned to the sidewalk where Brian was.
Correct.
What do you remember next?
Seconds after that, I saw Kevin come out the front door, walked past the front of Tabby's. In front of Tabby's, there were some high top
That would be
tables
awesome.
and some shorter metal
You could-
bar stools.
Okay,
You could have it running 24/7. Just have it constantly ticking over.
It would just be beep,
Hilarious.
beep, get out of my way,
He
beep.
grabbed one of the bar stools,
who did?
Beep.
opened it.
Okay,
As he walked past the front of it, walking towards the other two men standing, but still same spot, half a block away in front of the pharmacy.
you saw him grab one of the stools.
Grab one of the stools.
And did you see Mr. Sehmer do anything with the stool?
He threw it, but I don't know if he's actually trying to throw it at him. I saw it hit the curb and bounce off into the street.
Okay. Did you later retrieve that stool?
Yes, I did.
And where was it when you picked it up?
In the street, and I put it back in front of Tabby's.
Okay. Those stools are always out there.
Yes, they're always out there. Correct.
Okay.
She's a crack.
And so you said you saw Kevin Sehmer throw the stool, but do you know if it hit anybody or anything?
Just the curb as far as I know.
Okay. What do you remember next?
Next, I remember he had walked all the way down there and he was right in front of the two guys and pretty close to them. And Josh just took like one step forward and I saw Kevin hit him. It looked like either with his fist or with a forearm smash kind of. And then I saw Josh fall flat back on his head
Okay.
and was laying there on the concrete.
Did you see Josh with a stool at any time?
No,
Did you see Josh with a stool above his head?
no. The only stool I ever saw was the one that I picked up and put back.
And that was the one that you saw being thrown by Kevin Sehmer.
Correct.
Did you see Josh ever make a swinging motion?
No,
Did you see Josh throw any punches?
no,
How many punches total did you see?
just one
From who?
from Kevin.
And did you see it strike anybody or anything?
Saw it strike Josh.
Where?
It was hard to tell because Kevin's pretty big and probably either, right in the front or in his face.
Okay. And did you see what happened with Josh right after that?
Right after that, I saw him coming back towards me and he went down the street on the south, towards the south on the sidewalk.
Meaning Kevin?
Kevin did, yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, because maybe it wasn't very clear. What happened to Josh after you saw Kevin?
Josh
deliver
fell straight back onto the concrete and his head obviously hit the concrete.
Did you see that?
I saw it kind of looked like it bounced.
Yeah,
I saw
like a
his
whiplash?
friend standing right next to him there, Brian.
Folks, you're talking over each other.
I apologize.
And his story is different from
So
the wife too.
you saw Josh drop and hit his head.
Correct.
What part of his head do you
The
remember?
back of his head. It's like he fell completely straight back.
Okay. And you saw the head bounce off the pavement?
Judge, I've checked, it's been asked and answered.
Overrule. He answered. His answer stands. Next question.
Did Josh, when he was in that motion of dropping, did you see him put his arms back to try and brace his fall in any way?
He looked like he just went straight back.
Okay. And then Kevin did what?
Kevin walked south on the sidewalk and disappeared down the street.
Okay. Did you hear Kevin say anything during this incident out on the sidewalk?
No, I did not.
Did you hear Josh say anything during this incident out on the sidewalk?
No, they were too far away to hear what they were saying.
Did you hear Brian say anything out on the sidewalk?
No,
Did you, were you drinking alcohol that night, sir?
I don't drink at all.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Those were my questions.
Cross.
Thank you, Judge.
Can you pause it for a second, Jody?
Mr. Laporte, I
Yes.
Before he goes into his cross. I gotta go. I gotta drive to my appointment. So I will have you guys on my phone.
No
and
problemo.
Soon as I get to my dad's, probably a couple of hours, I'll jump back on and chat as soon as I get to my dad's after I talk to him for a bit. And
Yeah.
then I will hang out with you guys if you guys are still going here.
Easy.
So, but
I will be here.
I'll be listening. So behave, all of you.
Have
I
a
will
good
not be-
time.
Oh, it's going to be a blast.
Drive safe. Yeah.
Today is a blast day. So, but
Yeah.
thank you, Flash Van. I'll be back. All right. See you guys. I'm going to leave myself
Bye.
in here, though, if that's
No
okay.
worries.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
understand that
And poof,
you had
there
been
she
at
goes.
Tabby's for some period of time that evening?
Correct.
Okay. And you were finishing at about what time? If you
10:07.
recall.
10:07.
7:07, okay.
To the
And I
minute.
think the video, I can see you packing up your board, your keyboard, is that right?
Yes, I have keyboards.
Okay. And then you, at some point, you're hearing this argument, disturbance in Tabby's, is that right?
Correct.
It's kind of while you're packing up, is that
Yes.
right? And then you went outside and you loaded your car, is that
It's run
right?
amok.
Correct.
And did you ever, after you loaded your car, did you ever have to move the car? I don't mean forever, because it's obviously not still
No.
there, but you left it there until when? Relative, and I don't mean
I was
timeline.
loading it until the paramedics.
Please, please,
Let me start.
you
over.
have to wait until the question is finished before you begin your answer. And you have to wait until his answer is done before you begin your question. Because we're getting into a conversation here,
It's all right,
and that's gonna
Bri.
make this lady's
We'll
work
make it somehow.
impossible. All right, you want to
gonna be
re-ask the
hard.
question?
I will, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
You indicated that your car was in front of Tabby's when you were loading it up. Is
Correct.
that true?
Correct.
What did you do, Mr.
And I
Cameraman?
know at some point you indicated that you later, after the incident outside, picked up a stool from the road. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, did you ever move your car from being directly in front of Tabby's to any other location that evening or
Not,
that night?
not until I left for the evening.
Okay. And did you leave before law enforcement came?
No.
Okay, so law enforcement had already come.
Correct.
Okay. And so when law enforcement came, your car should have still been right in front of Tabby's. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You have a blue car?
Yes.
Okay. Hatchback?
Correct.
When you lift that hatchback, does the light go on?
Yes.
Okay. So as I understand it, you saw Josh and his friend leave Tabby's and go about a half a block away in the direction of the pharmacy. Is that true?
Correct.
And they remain there talking to each other
Mhm.
until at some point later, Josh returned to the front door of Tabby's. Is that true?
Correct.
Do you have any sense of how long it was before
I'm
Josh
not sure,
went
Bri.
to or returned to that front door?
Not more than 5 minutes.
I kind of skimmed to get timestamps, if I'm honest.
Okay. And you were still by your car, so you saw him open the door and say something,
Waukesha.
correct?
I saw him open the door.
And is that all
Waukesha.
you didn't hear anything?
I did not hear you
Okay.
say anything.
And was that because there was too much noise or you just couldn't hear anything?
Just wasn't hearing any.
Okay. And then Josh leaves and goes
He's
back to
actually
where
pretty
he
much of a
was
nothing
with
witness, to be
Brian
honest.
earlier, correct?
Correct.
About a half a block away.
Correct.
33.
And it was sufficiently far away that you couldn't really hear what they were saying. Is that true?
Correct.
And then a
Yeah.
period of time later, you see Mr. Sehmer leave, correct? Leave Tabby's.
Yes.
He exits Tabby's
Correct.
and he goes towards them
Correct.
and he encounters them about a half a block
Oh, I
away.
didn't speed him up. Hang on.
Where they were standing. Correct.
Okay. And sometime prior to Mr. Sehmer getting there, getting to them, he had either pushed or kicked or knocked over somehow a stool. Is that right?
No.
Okay, it's not right. Did you see him throw a stool?
Yes.
Okay, and he threw it towards the street?
He threw it towards where they were standing and he hit the street.
Did he throw it a half a block in the air?
No, he was getting close. He was walking with it to them.
Okay,
He had picked it up as he went past Tabby's.
okay. And at some point, as he's
See
walking
if I can put a poll up.
past Tabby's, you say he threw the stool.
Correct. He picked it up as he walked past Tabby's, continued walking towards them, and threw it while he was walking.
And you believe, I think it didn't hit anybody, correct?
Correct. I don't think it did.
Is that true?
Correct.
And you didn't see, for example, Josh pick up the stool.
No,
Okay. And so you're still, I presume, while watching this, you're somewhere near the front of, you're still near your car?
yes.
Okay. In front of the front door of Tabby's.
Yeah, my car is like 10 feet from the front door.
Okay. And you didn't see Josh holding a stool in his hand.
No,
You didn't see Josh holding a stool over his head.
no,
I can do it on.
Did you
AJ.
see any other people other than Josh and Brian in the area where Josh encountered Mr. Sehmer?
no.
Okay. And how far away from Josh was Mr. Sehmer when Josh was struck?
3 feet, 4 feet, maybe.
Okay. And you indicated, I think, that at some point, just prior to being struck, if I'm right, you saw Josh move towards Mr. Sehmer. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. And then he was struck, is that right?
Correct.
And there was nobody next to him, correct?
His friend Brian was standing next to him.
Well, when I mean next, I mean like, was he within, a foot or so of him?
I'd say Brian was like 2 feet from him, maybe. They were still standing there talking. And it's like he just took one step forward. You got to remember that Kevin had walked all the way down there with a bar stool and was moving pretty fast. So he was kind of in motion up to Brian, and then Brian just took one step, half a step towards
Towards him or away from him?
him. Yeah, probably towards him.
Okay, so he wasn't backing away or anything.
Didn't look like it.
Got a lot of he's and hims.
Oh, I am so sorry. I meant Josh wasn't moving backwards, according to what you saw.
Did not look like he was moving backwards.
Looked like he moved forward shortly before the fight, or the punch.
Yeah, about a half a step or so.
Okay. All right. And he fell straight backwards.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
Thank you.
We have a poll up.
Any redirect?
I was watching Sidebar with Jesse Weber or whatever his name is this afternoon, and they must have said the M word half a dozen times at least. So it must vary between the size of your channel, I think, on how much they let you get away with. It must be, because yeah, they didn't give it a second thought at all. Yes, no, it's a nothing witness.
I think
so-
some
Okay, thank you.
All right, may this
Okay.
witness be released?
big channels don't care about monetization, I think.
Okay, fair enough. Well, obviously that Sidebar's got how many different channels with Law and Crime and Vinnie Politan and Anjanette Levy and multiple income streams. All right, so the next witness up is the medical examiner, 33. Now, she has an alphabet surname, Linda Bizrski. She'll spell it. You'll
The
get it.
testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So,
I do.
Thank you. Ma'am, could you please state your name and spell it for the court reporter?
Linda, Lynda, Biedrzycki, Biedrzycki.
And how are you employed?
I'm the medical examiner for Waukesha County.
How long have you had that job?
I think it's about 28 years and 2 parts.
Okay. You were here, left for a while, and then returned.
Yes.
Okay. And what are your duties as a medical examiner?
Well, the state
She's actually
statute says
quite
we
good.
need to investigate, medical examiners need to investigate deaths in certain categories. And that investigation can include performing exams and autopsies. So I'm in charge of investigating the deaths, and I personally perform autopsies.
What is your educational background, please?
Well, I have a degree in biology, and then I went to medical school at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Then I did a year of internal medicine, and then I changed to pathology, and I trained in pathology at the Medical College, the University of California, San Diego, and at William Beaumont Hospital. I did a fellowship in forensic pathology, which is the specialty that does the medical examiner work in Detroit, Wayne County, Michigan. And I did a fellowship in cardiovascular pathology in Boston at Brigham and Women's Hospital.
Is all of this summarized in your curriculum vitae?
Yes.
All right, I'd like to put up just for the witness, exhibit
car.
21, please. Do you have it, Doctor?
Yes,
Okay, and it appears on the right side of the screen, I can see this is a 7-page document, is that correct?
oops, but I don't draw, it's on a scroll. Okay, yeah.
Now, how much more organised and efficient is this attorney compared to the ones on Ashley Benefield? Clear, concise. There you go. That's the thing. Done. Bang. Up. Ready to go.
You wipe that screen.
Yep,
Okay, and we just scrolled through that very quickly, but you recognize this as your curriculum vitae.
yes,
This is a document you created,
yes,
and it
No,
summarizes all
no.
your professional training and
Downloaded it.
experiences,
yes.
correct? Okay. What is the field of pathology?
Well, pathology is the study of disease, and that includes everything. Part of it is laboratory medicine, any urine or blood sample, any biopsy or tissue taken, that comes to a pathologist, and we interpret that. Microbiology, blood banking, toxicology, clinical chemistry, cytology, it all falls under pathology in the medical sense of pathology.
Are you board certified in any way?
Yep.
I'm board certified in clinical pathology, which is the laboratory part, and anatomic pathology, which is the tissue examination part, including autopsy, and forensic pathology, which is where pathology intersects with legal matters and is the investigation often of traumatic and non-natural deaths.
And are you licensed to practice medicine in the state of Wisconsin?
I am,
Have you ever testified in court before?
yes,
About how many times?
a few hundred times.
Okay. Have you ever testified in a case where the cause of death was believed to be related to a head injury?
Yes,
Can you estimate how many times you've done that?
well, probably dozens of times.
Okay. And were you asked to perform an autopsy on a person by the name of Joshua Davies?
I did perform an autopsy on Mr. Davies, yes.
And did you create a report to document your findings?
Yes, we create something called an autopsy protocol, which is a document stating all my observations at the time of autopsy.
All right. I believe I failed to request admission of Exhibit 21. I'm not seeking publication.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Exhibit 21 will be received.
And then please display for the witness only number 22. Do you recognize Exhibit 22, Doctor?
Yes, this is the autopsy protocol on Mr. Davies.
Again, this is a document that you authored.
Yes,
Okay. And does it contain your observations and findings from the autopsy?
it does.
Move to admit 22, please.
Any objection?
No.
22 will be received.
Could you please go back to page 1? And if you know these things off the top of your head, fine. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to please refer to page 1 of Exhibit 22 and tell us the dates of the autopsy for Mr. Davies.
Well, I did his external exam first, which was on July 12th of
You've got a
2023,
good memory,
and the internal exam of the autopsy after on July 13th.
Do you know the date of death for Mr. Davies?
I believe it was July 12th.
Now, there is a poll on my chat in my channel. If you would like to go and have a vote, we'll see what everyone thinks, if he's guilty or not.
Okay. So that same day,
Yes,
you did the external, and the next day the internal.
yes,
Okay. Did you document Mr. Davies' age at the time of his death?
39 years old.
And it might be in the,
Was she on the Darrell Brooks, maybe? I can't remember. Because this is Waukesha. So perhaps, maybe.
maybe the next page or the page after. Did you document the height and weight for Joshua Davies?
Yes, I'll need to look at this to
Okay.
refresh my memory.
All right. I
Thank
believe it's on page 2.
Yes.
Okay.
73 and a half inches tall and 130 pounds when I saw him.
Okay. And
It's tiny.
you know that Mr. Davies was in the hospital or hospitalized for quite a period of time prior to his death, correct?
Yes,
And so his weight of 130 pounds at the time of autopsy, is that the same as his weight a month earlier on June 17th of 2023?
well, I noticed when I reviewed the medical records that according to the bed scale, when he was admitted to the hospital, his weight was 159 pounds.
Okay. Is that unusual for him to have suffered such a weight loss in that period of time?
Well, this is almost 30 pounds would be a big weight loss. And I also am wondering about bed scales in terms of did he have medical devices or anything on him when he was in the bed scale, rather than when I weigh somebody, they're free of any devices or clothing.
Sure. But these give us a good general indication of his weight at the time he was admitted to the hospital and then at autopsy.
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to determine a cause and manner of death for Mr. Davies?
Yes.
Can you please explain those terms to the jury?
The cause of death is the injury or disease that starts the process and is continuous until the time of death.
Yes.
Because sometimes an injury occurs on day 1, but death doesn't occur till day 5. But so that's why we say it that way.
I actually didn't think, Flash Fan. I thought it was an option that you got once you became monetized because it's hidden. It's not easy to find. But I was having a play yesterday whilst AJ was in control because I've got no control. So I was just playing around on whilst I was streaming it, and I worked it out. So yeah, go and vote. Make it worth my while.
The manner of death is the circumstances under which death occurs. Manners of death would be homicide, suicide, accident, natural, or undetermined when there's evidence that weighs on 2 other causes of death, or you simply don't have enough information, say a skeletonized body with no soft tissue and their circumstances don't reveal a story. So then that would be undetermined.
What type of information do you need in order to determine cause and manner of death?
Well, cause of death is a medical opinion. It's basically my diagnosis. So I need a foundation to make that opinion. So I look for in disease and injury in the cases that come to me to form an opinion as to cause of death.
And what about manner?
Manner of death, you look at the cause because some causes would exclude some manners, for example, possibly. But you look at the disease and injury, but you also look at the context and the circumstances.
Okay. And was your autopsy that you performed on Mr. Davies instrumental to your conclusions in this case?
Oh, yes.
And did you rely on anything else aside from the autopsy?
I did know the circumstances. They were the circumstances of how these head injuries that Mr. Davies sustained were consistent among multiple histories that I read. So the medical record, the EMTs, witness statements, police reports, they all reflected how this head injury occurred.
Okay. And if you could please go to page 2 back.
Oh,
page 2,
yum.
exhibit 22.
Oh, Thai is my favourite, Gabby. Garlic pepper chicken and sticky rice. Oh, no, I'm going to have to do it now. I'm just going to have to. It just is.
Touche. Mm-mm. 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 Mm-mm.
I love pleasure. Yeah, no, what are you going to eat, Gabby? More to the point. What's your favourite Thai food?
Ask you about your documented findings at autopsy, please. So did you observe any injuries to Mr. Davies?
Yes.
And those are documented on page, well, it's listed as page 1, but that's because there's a cover sheet, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what's on 22 at the top, it says page 1, there's your findings.
Yes.
Okay. Please describe your findings for the jury.
Okay. The first category is craniocerebral injuries, which means injuries to the bone, the cranium, and the cerebrum or the brain. And those included an occipital skull fracture. The occiput is the back of your head, and his fracture was on the left. And if you, I mean, you don't have to do this now, but if you found the point of your skull that was kind of protuberant, the occipital protuberance, and you drew a line down toward the base of your ear, that's where his fracture was, left occipital. He had a subdural hematoma. That is blood that collects between, if this is the skull in my hand, and this is the brain, it's blood that collects between that, those two entities, so it can compress the brain. So there'd be blood in that space.
All right. So if we remember back to John O'Keefe, he also had a subdural hematoma. So you can have a refresh your recollection. So the subdural hematoma is that between the skull and the dura. The contusion is at the brain. The brain. It's a bruise, and she'll refer to it shortly. But at the very center of the brain, there was also some bleeding deep in his brain as well as part of the findings. Just for point of reference.
Next are cerebral contusions, which are bruises to your brain itself, to the gray and white matter. They actually are hemorrhagic and bruised from contact with the inside of the skull.
Yum.
Intraparenchymal hemorrhage, which means hemorrhage on the inside of the brain. So I'm going to use my hands again. If my cerebrum is here, left and right cortex, and inside, there are structures where my thumb is. There was hemorrhage deep in the brain, besides the contusions that would be on the surface of the brain. And then he had secondary cerebral edema. So your brain swells as a sequelae of the injury. So not only does he have bleeding in the brain and over the brain, but then his brain says, this is really a problem for me. And then the brain tissue itself just swells.
So if
It's like anywhere, like if you've hurt yourself, your body's response is to send all of its macrophages, and you get that area of swelling, and that's what happens in the brain as well. But unfortunately, the brain is it's an enclosed space, so it has limited space to go. So when John O'Keefe's brain swelled, it protruded through the back of the eyes and down to the brain stem. So because it's got not many places to go, that's why his eyes were so puffy from the front, because it's a contra coup injury. The injury is hit, the impact is one side, and the brain bounces to the other side of the inside of the skull, and you get the bruising on that side. That's a contra coup. So it's the same injury, but not back to front like John O'Keefe's. This is, I think it was left to right. Yeah, left to right. She'll say it in a second.
can ask a few questions that probably will not sound too artful. You described the skull fracture back left side of the head.
Yes.
Do you have an opinion as to what may have caused that injury?
Falling to the ground.
Okay. And the subdermal hematoma, do we have blood between the brain and the skull?
No, not at all.
So that's very unusual that you would find blood in that location.
It's an injury. It's abnormal. Yeah.
Okay. The contusions to the brain you described, and then you described, I believe in item D, deep hemorrhage.
Yes, correct.
And he was in hospital for 27 days after the incident as well, before he passed.
Do you have an opinion as to what would cause injury to the deep portions of the brain?
We'll call it shearing forces. So now the anatomy I described and why I wanted to tell you where the fracture was. So there was also a hematoma over the back left part of the scalp. So that was the contact point. But the contusions were in the front of the brain, frontal and temporal. That's contra-coup. If you've ever heard that word, it means that the head
Yes,
is the
we
result
have,
of a
because
moving
we're all
head
knowledgeable
striking
here.
an object. So the head,
We're
back of the
so
head
clever.
hits the ground. But because the brain is in fluid inside the skull, it's almost like a yolk of the egg inside the shell. The
That's a good
skull hits the
description.
ground first before the brain does. And so the inside of the skull hits the brain opposite of the point of impact. So the impact's in the back, the contusions are in the front. And if the impact's on the
don't
left,
think
you
he
might have
did.
contusions on the right. So
don't
it's
think he
because
did,
of the
right?
brain. It's characteristic of a moving head injury.
I think his level of sedation varied, but I don't actually think he regained consciousness
Versus somebody being hit with a bat in a stationary skull.
last year. I think
So
June
the
last year.
energy that also occurs,
Around then?
that's transmitted through the brain, it's referred to as a shearing force. And the hemorrhages that were deep in Mr. Davies' brain were in an area called the basal ganglia, which is again deep where I showed where my thumbs would be. And these nuclei have a different composition than the white matter surrounding them. So it's a point of where shear forces may be seen more commonly because of the difference in the tissue deep there. So as the energy goes from the back of the brain to the front through this moving,
I think he just, as I said, the sedation, they probably tried to wean him off a little bit, and maybe he opened his eyes. And she maybe considered that to be waking up, but I don't think there was full consciousness, just from what she's saying.
injury, it shears internal structures as
guessing.
well. So that's why he had bruises on the outside of the cortex hitting the inside of the skull, be it internal injuries from the forces that caused differential movement between the structures of the brain. Does that make
Yes.
sense? Okay.
Do you have an opinion as to the amount of force that would be necessary to cause this type of injury?
It's quite significant, particularly because it's not common to have these deep shearing injuries. And also the back of the skull is not the thinnest part of the skull. It's maybe not the thickest, but it's not the thinnest. So there's considerable force in order to cause a fracture in that area.
Okay. Finally, item E, the cerebral edema, is that swelling in the brain?
It's swelling of the brain.
Okay, and that's a bad thing too.
Yes.
Why?
The brain is contained in the skull. So if you have swelling, it's forced through apertures. You can get forcing of the brain through the bottom of the skull going to the spinal cord. You can get forcing of the brain from the right side to the left side, and that causes injury to that portion of the brain that's basically squished into another compartment.
Was there any medical intervention or
No,
treatment
bless
that was possible for any of these 5 injuries?
They did drain the subdural hematoma, and they did remove actually a large part of the left side of his skull called the craniectomy.
I can't see the point, Bri, of paying $40 to go and sit in a room with 300 other people when I can lay in an feet elevated position on my electric bed with my massive flat screen at the end of it and have all the coffee and food that I like right beside me for nothing. I pay subscriptions to Netflix for a reason.
And they froze that piece of skull to get replaced later. But by removing the piece of skull that allows the brain to swell out rather than push the other side in or down, and the draining of the blood, the subdural blood also causes pressure on the brain. That's why it's bad, because it's supposed, the space should be empty. So when it's filled, it causes pressure. So they drain the blood, they removed that piece of bone. Then they went in and they put another drain in to try to drain the deep hematoma. Those were the first 2 operations.
So they actually took a piece of the skull out, like a piece of like a circle, and that allows they keep that piece of skull and they freeze it, and that allows the brain to have another place where it can expand with its swelling to try and reduce the pressure within the skull. And they keep that open, but they've put a drain in behind his ear to get rid of the blood from between the skull and the dura, and they also put a drain tube into the brain to drain the center bit of the brain to try and keep, because obviously the more fluid you have in it, it's not supposed to be there, the more pressure you have. So they were trying to reduce his intracranial pressure at the end of the day.
And then later in his hospital course, there was a reaccumulation of that blood and they drained it again.
Okay.
I've never even
We
heard of that.
testimony earlier from his wife
I've
that
never heard of
Josh
it.
was hospitalized for about a month, and that during that time he became somewhat alert, I don't believe is the terminology she uses. Would that
Is it something that I download, or is it something that I buy, like a USB stick? I might have to Google that.
surprise you?
No.
But never was like fully conscious or able to speak or things like that. Is that consistent with your opinion?
Yes.
Okay. So let's continue with your findings then, please. Back from the autopsy. So paragraph 2, please.
He also, as a consequence of the hospitalization, and he also had a breathing tube several times, he developed bronchopneumonia. It's a pretty common complication of prolonged hospitalization.
Not if I was on the case.
Item 3.
He had a left psoas hematoma. The psoas is your deep muscle along your spine, deep in your core, that allows you to like lift your legs. It's a very important core muscle. And right in the middle of the muscle, so the muscle's like this, right in the middle of it, there was a hematoma.
Do you have any opinion as to what may have caused an injury like that?
I think the force of landing on that left side of his body.
Okay. And then finally, your fourth finding.
He had what I call the myxomatous mitral valve. That's a
I'll have a
natural
look.
disease. His valve in the left ventricle called the
Thanks,
mitral
Bob.
valve had a spongy quality, and microscopically it was thickened with
Yeah, so
a substance that
in the autopsy, they found that his mitral valve was thickened as well and spongy. So that didn't contribute to his cause of death, but he did have a congenital floppy, spongy mitral valve.
would normally not be there in that amount
That was in his heart?
in his heart.
Okay. What did you conclude as to cause of death, please?
Complications of craniocerebral injuries.
Did the heart problem kill him?
No.
Okay. And you detailed for us very thoroughly these injuries that you observed and explained them to us, but can you just explain that ultimate conclusion? What killed Mr. Davies?
Terrible brain injury. Yeah.
Okay. Were you able to make a determination as to manner of death?
Well, manner of death was homicide.
Judge, excuse me, I'm objecting to this,
You're objecting to what, sir?
to her testimony regarding the manner of death, since it's based upon review of police reports and et cetera, according to her earlier testimony.
They have a sidebar here.
This feels like it's going to need some argument.
And basically, she wins. Let's get back to it. Come on.
And what was your conclusion?
That it's a homicide.
And what did you base that on?
She wins.
Because it was an act of another, intentional act of another, that caused the injury that led to his death.
Okay. And that's a medical determination by you at this point. It's not a legal.
No, I'm sorry. That was a confusing answer. It is a medical opinion, not a legal opinion.
Okay. Would you say, in your opinion, doctor, that the injuries suffered by Joshua Davies, you've already testified, would have required significant force, in your opinion?
Yes.
Would you say it would be consistent with Mr. Davies tripping over an object?
No,
Why not?
not enough acceleration. Force and injuries are caused by force. Velocity is the main determinant of force, as well as, I mean, you could have less velocity with a more vulnerable site, but as I said, that's not a very thin part of the bone. And there was all this shearing force that traveled through the brain to cause the deep hemorrhage. So those are indicators of significant force from acceleration. If you just trip, you really don't get that amount of force.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Cross.
Bob, if I go and buy this Fire Stick, how are you going to program it for me? Where are you? Aren't you in the UK or the US? How does that work? I suppose I could post it to you. Snail mail.
Thank you. Doctor, you had a chance to review the medical records, is that correct?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Now, Doctor, I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibits 107 and 108 that have been shown to the state already, Judge.
I got
So you
Oh, I'm sorry.
Both these other ones.
want 107?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we could do one at a time. Or you're going to show them physically.
Yes, I'm going to show you.
All right, go ahead. You get so used to the TV that I think everything's coming up there.
Doctor,
I really like this,
Judge. To look at those, I don't think it'll take you long, because I'm going to ask you about a specific item of information on that.
Okay.
All right. The hospital, the blood test on Mr. Davies, when he was admitted, is that correct?
They did a lot of them.
And one of the tests they determined is on exhibits 107 and 108, which shows that his alcohol level was 0.267.
Here it's 267, which would be,
267.
yeah. right.
Okay. And we don't know if that's whole blood or serum, do we?
No,
Okay. If it were whole blood, then 267 is 267, correct?
correct.
That's a very high alcohol level, is it?
It
Not.
is.
Okay. Now, if it were hemoglobin, I think you believe that then it would be 2.4. Does that sound right?
No, if it was serum,
Serum, I'm sorry.
yes. If the test was done on serum, the equivalent blood alcohol, because blood alcohol, as we speak about it for drunk driving and such, refers to whole blood. So if it's serum, the conversion would make it lower.
I think 2.4. Is
Yes,
that right?
yes,
That's also a high level. correct?
yes.
Okay. So we know that this young man had hit some concrete. everybody appears to agree with that. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Now, and you indicated that tripping wouldn't typically show that much force, correct?
Correct.
Now, however,
Snap,
what if
Gabby.
the person who
Snap.
fell in part because he
Twinsies.
was trying to swing a heavy object like a metal stool, and that was blocked, as that person had kind of, in this case, the deceased had kind of gone airborne trying to hit somebody. Would that increase the velocity of his fall?
I think the hypothetical would depend on the resistance met by the stool or whatever because it would be the transmission of the force through Joshua's body that would still be necessary and in an accelerated fashion to cause the fall.
Right. Newton's third law of motion, correct?
Oh, I don't remember if that's it. But
So if somebody is moving with a lot of force and then it meets an object that's moving force away, that's going to transfer that velocity into the person.
Well, it can and it can't. I mean, if you think about car crashes, it really depends on, the collision. Sometimes one side gives, sometimes the other side gives. A hard force meaning a hard force. So we're getting into more physics than I think I could possibly give you a single answer to.
Okay, all right. But you understand that the issue of velocity, how that can get transferred to, in this case, Mr. Davies, could depend upon how exactly what he was doing and what force it meant when he did it, correct?
Well, yes.
Okay. Now, would you agree that a person who has either a blood alcohol level of 267 or 24 would be intoxicated?
I would say yes.
I mean, you are probably aware from your work that the legal alcohol limit for drivers is 0.08, correct?
Yes.
This is well over that, correct?
Yes.
It's almost 3 times, correct?
Yes.
And that would affect their coordination, correct?
Yes.
And their ability to operate in space, I mean, physically, correct?
Yes. Correct.
And they would have a harder time doing physical acts than somebody who didn't have such a high BAC.
That's true.
And so the likelihood that a person with an elevated BAC level is more likely to have less ability to both control themselves and, if they're falling, to control their ability to break the fall, for example.
That's true.
Is that true? All right. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, just briefly following up on that. Does tolerance play a role in that?
Yes.
Can you describe further?
Well, again, just thinking back on my experience, they say that people would die at a 0.40 alcohol. And I have patients that have come to me from hospital that have walked into the hospital at over a 0.4. Okay, so there are people that develop tolerances. Also, that metabolism is a different story. But yes, there are people that can tolerate more alcohol than others.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Therefore, if a person can handle the alcohol better than another, does that can they therefore control their movements and their balance and things like that better?
For any individual, you can't really say for sure what level of impairment any particular blood alcohol would be. That's individual. But in general, we know alcohol causes these certain things.
Thank you.
Any recross on that limited scope?
Yes. So when you
Yes.
talk about tolerance, you mean somebody who drinks a lot. Is that what you mean?
Yes, they become tolerant.
Okay. And to be able to have high BACs like you were speaking of with that one of your patients, those are people who are drinking not small amounts, but a large amount of alcohol every day.
That's true.
All right. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Will this witness be released?
Yes.
Yes.
Leave the exhibits here.
Oh, thank you. And I
All
appreciate that.
That's the ME. So let's go over and see what the results are for the poll. Now, the question was, do you think Kevin is guilty? And we have 100% yes. There you go. 100%. There's people with no doubts, which is a good thing. Oh, why am I doing that? I want to go to the next one. Now, the next witness is a defence witness who's been called out of order because he couldn't come in any other time. and he is Dr. Ronald Henson, and he's a drug and alcohol consultant. 108. I haven't listened to his testimony, but I'm assuming that he's going to really concentrate on the BAC and
Well, keep your voice up and direct it towards that.
yeah. Yes.
Mr. Sherrill, this is your witness.
Thank you, sir.
It was
Sir,
a shoe-in, Flash.
Wasn't listening because I was talking to counsel. Could you state your name?
I did not.
Could you state your name and spell?
Yes, Ronald Henson, Ronald Henson.
Okay. And what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm an independent consultant in drug and alcohol related matters. I work for insurance companies, employers, civil law firms, and also criminal law firms.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you about your background in education. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring you exhibits 104 and 105, which are part of your CV. Okay. And an addendum to your CV. With your permission, Judge,
Please approach.
Looking at your CV page or exhibit 104, how many pages is that?
It is, should be 20,
Holy crap.
there's actually another, so this is 22 pages.
Okay, there's an addendum to your CV.
There is an addendum,
That's exhibit what?
105,
How many pages is that?
and that is 6 pages.
Okay, if I may, and you can reference your CV if you need it, but I'm going to ask you first about your education. Can you tell me all about
I
your
wonder if he drinks.
post high school education?
Sure, post-high school, from the vocations, I'm a graduate of Illinois State Police Academy with also additional advanced coursework, training with regards to drugs and alcohol. From academia, I have 4 college degrees. I have an associate degree in sociology and psychology with studies in drugs and alcohol. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Illinois. It was in their criminal justice program, and I received additional training in drugs and alcohol, physiology and pharmacology through that program. I have a master's degree of public administration from Governor State University. It's a
And a
state school in
5-page
Illinois.
addendum.
And my
6
thesis
page,
was
sorry.
Driving Under the Influence, Processes and Procedures for Law Enforcement, specifically to Illinois law enforcement. I have a PhD degree from Walden University in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My residency was performed at Indiana University. My subject matter dealt with drug and alcohol testing in the workplace.
You think you said
so it
this
was
before?
in the
Just once?
management program and decision sciences, since I was dealing with employees and employers, but it was regarding drug and alcohol testing in the workplace.
Have you written any articles or books regarding anything
Apparently.
related to drug and alcohol testing or the effect of drugs and alcohol?
Yes, I have multiple book chapters, as well as a college textbook chapter. I've been the reoccurring author for the Illinois Institute for Continuing Legal Education on chemical testing. That started in 1995, 96 timeframe, and I just submitted the galley proofs for the publication to be updated this fall of 2024. I've published in Understanding Scientific Evidence by Thomson Reuters. That was published a few years ago. I published a college textbook chapter regarding alcohol production, physiology, and pharmacology. And that textbook was used by Illinois State University because I frequently appeared as a guest lecturer in relationship to that chapter, as well as I'm not sure what other universities use that chapter, but that was published by Kendall Hunt Publishing out of Dubuque, Iowa. And
I'm muted. Could you imagine going out to a restaurant for dinner with him and ordering a glass of wine and the look that he would give you?
there are at least a couple others.
Okay. Have you done any teaching?
I have.
Where have you taught and what subjects?
Starting in 1986, I started teaching at the University of Illinois at the Police Academy, the Police Training Institute, in drugs and alcohol, breath, blood, urine testing, and the methods of collection of evidence, the methodology of testing, the results. alcohol extrapolation, which is anti looking forward, and then also retrograde is looking backwards. And
Can I
going.
just stop you for a second? What do you mean by that?
If I were to dose somebody, if you said I need to get somebody to a 0.10, I would take their gender into account. I would take their body weight into account. I would take into account when they last ate, and I would utilize a calculation to program them to drink a certain amount of alcohol that would get them to that 0.10. I've dosed over 1,000 people and always been within plus or minus 0.01 of my calculations. Looking backwards in time, where we have a time where a person is peaked in blood alcohol concentration and they're now on the downward slope. Sometimes questions come up as to what were they at some time earlier in their drinking process. And so then you could look at oxidization rates or no metabolism rates for the alcohol that the body goes through and be able to make that calculation as well. So I think here in Wisconsin, they use what's called the HINS chart, and the HINS chart is based on Woodmark's formula.
Okay, so, but I interrupted you. You were talking about other teaching you did?
Sure. So I taught starting in 1986 and 1988. I was put in charge of the teaching program at the University of Illinois for law enforcement with regards to the drug and alcohol, biological specimen collection, testing, training law enforcement. I also trained people from the medical profession with regards to the forensic side versus the clinical side of blood alcohol, urine alcohol evidence. That continued till the mid 1990s. And then early 2000s, I started my own drug and alcohol testing laboratory. And that's still in existence today. I sold it after about 3 years, but I remain as a consultant all the way to today. And it's an operation in Peoria, Illinois. I have also been a professor at Iowa Wesleyan College in redundant, but it's in Iowa. And then I've also taught online and was dean of online instruction for Aspen University as well. So that's, in a nutshell, as best I can, my teaching experience.
Why don't you tell us, or please tell the jury about your employment history.
Employment history, I started out as a police cadet in 1979, so about 45 years ago, roughly. Went to the police academy.
You stopped teaching at the academy.
And then I started appearing in a professor position, and that's why I went. It does various things. They review evidence, forensic evidence, biological evidence such as blood testing, urine testing, or there's compromisation with the involved in company policy and how that affects their sheriff to come together, how to deal with it. There's a multitude in life and beyond therapeutic, and methamphetamine. At this juncture, certainly well more than 500 times, maybe more than 1,000.
And in how many different states?
40 cases.
Yes.
It may have for vodka, or 90% along. Yeah.
Okay, Judge, I'm offering Dr. Henson as an expert in this.
Oh, you think?
Well, it no longer requires the court to certify his credentialing, so I will decline the invitation. You can ask your next question, please.
So did you have an opportunity to review some materials in conjunction with your testimony in this case?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, no, I've heard that one before.
In the large scope, there were two different videos, but there was a breakdown of the video segments, but the videos from inside a bar establishment, and then a surveillance video from a retail store of some type that showed a portion of an outside area, and the medical records, which was, I think it was a little over like 233 pages.
Okay, and in looking at the medical records, did you note a blood alcohol level that was obtained from Mr. Davies on the day he was taken to the hospital?
Yes.
Okay, and what results did they obtain?
They identified 0.267.
Okay. Now, can you tell us whether or not you were able to determine by looking at the records whether this was whole blood or serum?
No, they did not break that out. However, it was later identified that it was serum.
Okay. And so do you have to modify the results or change the result based upon it being serum?
Yes, hospitals typically analyze serum or plasma, which is an extraction or a divisor from whole blood. And so therefore a calculation has to be performed to make an equivalent of a whole blood. I use an average of 1.18, which is considered an average conservative value. I think there are some that use 1.16 as well. 1.18 gives a close approximation to that average.
So if I told you that the medical examiner, when looking at that, came to the 267 serum came to a 0.24 result, do you have any problem with that?
No, it sounds like they probably use 16% or 17%, and I used 18%, so more conservative. My number comes out to 0.22, so it's a slight lower using that 1.18 conversion.
Okay, so between 0.22 or 0.24, would you expect anything significantly different between somebody with a 2.4 as opposed to a 2.2?
No, no, you wouldn't.
Okay, using either one of those numbers, what are the kinds of symptoms or that one would find in somebody with that level of blood in their alcohol in their blood?
Sure, it certainly would have gross motor skill impairment, fine motor skill impairment, comprehension would be affected, reactionary time would also be slowed and impacted, as far as also the response, which is arguably closely related to the reaction, and the response would be affected at that level.
Would you expect, or do you have an opinion whether or not somebody with that blood alcohol level, either the 2.2 or the 2.4, would have difficulty doing kind of large gross motor skills like swinging a stool?
Absolutely.
And would that matter whether the person was an experienced drinker or no?
I read the first few words and assume the rest. I'm good on ya. Did you see my other one? Where is it? That one. I had to keep it clean for AJ. But I do like that one. Bang the poop out of it. Yeah, blood in your alcohol system. Yes. That's the added bonus for today.
And not at that level. It's a significantly high level.
Okay. And you would expect to find that in Mr. Davies, those concerns or those symptoms in Mr. Davies given his blood alcohol level?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have nothing further.
Cross.
Dr. Henson, you never saw Mr. Davies that night?
Oh my God.
In person, sorry.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
He's going through his CV was longer than his testimony. She doesn't mind the odd super chat either. Just FYI.
Yes, not in person, just the video.
And you've been a police officer at the start of your career, right?
Yes, I did.
And one of the best ways of evaluating impairment is seeing that person in front of you. Is that true?
In person certainly is better than video, yes.
And you talked about tolerance. You kind of talked about it just a little bit here at the end. Do you recall those questions? Alcohol tolerance?
Yeah, it was not term tolerance, but I think that you could insert that in that last hypothetical, that some people may perform better at a 0.10 than others, and that's due to the tolerance.
And that could be the same for 0.20 as well.
0.20 is going to alleviate some factors with regards to tolerance level. However, you are still going to be grossly impaired no matter what your experience is.
Okay, so, but would you agree that a novice drinker who rarely drinks is going to show impairment at a 0.20 differently than somebody who uses alcohol pretty routinely and has tolerance?
I would agree with that. A novice drinker may not even get to a 0.20.
They could black out, right?
Well, usually they vomit. And then,
Okay. Yes.
usually they vomit. So there was one study that I did for the Department of
I'll
Psychology.
stop you.
Okay.
Next question.
And somebody at a 0.20 who has more higher tolerance, they might not be puking at a 0.20.
That's true.
And there's just a lot of factors that depend on what that impairment looks like at a 0.20 based on that individual.
Yes, from a gross motor skill standpoint, there are some differences, but you still wouldn't want them hitting the brakes or the accelerator at a 0.20 no matter what their experience is.
But their weight can affect how they show impairment at a 0.20.
Weight could have some variability in extreme levels because you have some outside influence other than the alcohol.
Food that's in your stomach prior to drinking that could affect how we see a 0.20?
It's going to deal with the absorption, but in this case, food's not a factor. Food isn't going to change that value, and food's not going to change your mental condition. It may change the height in which you get to the peak alcohol level. But in this case, there was between 8.5 and 9.5 drinks in his blood.
So he gets hit by the punch and knocked out unconscious before he hits the ground. So it's not going to matter what his blood alcohol condition, level was prior to that. The only difference that it made was that he didn't hit Kevin with the stool. He never made contact. He threw it in the street. I don't understand the reason for this.
At the time it was tested, and that wouldn't change.
It wasn't
based upon
part
food
of the cause of
consumption.
death.
But you don't know when he drank any of these drinks. You can't say that necessarily without a drink history.
All we know is that's what was in his system. If he started drinking at 6 p.m., then he had a lot more than the 8.5 to 9.5 drinks.
But you don't have a drink history for Mr. Davies.
I do not.
And to be clear, you reviewed the medical records in terms of finding that alcohol level. Is that fair to say?
The alcohol level and statements regarding intoxication.
Okay. You didn't review the medical records for medical purposes in terms of head injuries or anything like that.
I did not. I'm not an expert on the head trauma part.
And I want to talk about.
Yeah, sounds like it. But if he's unconscious,
Would you agree with
when
the
he's
statement
hit,
that while we can talk about
makes a difference.
generalities at a 0.20, and talk about those certain symptomology and those kinds of things at 0.20, it really is something that you have to look at that person and see how they exhibited a 0.20.
There are some generalities that are across the board, and that was.
Maybe if he wasn't 0.20, he wouldn't have stuck his head back into the bar and said what he said. That's the only other difference that would make.
Not only born out in literature, but also I've done the experimentation. But there are some that have some slight variation, but there are some behavioral manifestations and pharmacological effects that is pretty much straight across the board. But there is some variation.
For example, somebody may have slurred speech at a 0.20, but they may not.
It's all based upon the observer.
The observer and.
Do you know how the person normally speaks?
Someone can also have a decreased reaction time when they're at a 0.20.
That can have, they will have.
So
that's a given.
That's true.
Is it possible that somebody at a 0.20 might be less capable of reacting to a sudden attack?
Yes, that's what I testified on direct, and I agree.
Now, looking at your educational background, in all of your degrees that you talked about, none of those are in chemistry?
No, I had chemistry as coursework, but not a degree in chemistry.
None of those are in biology?
Yeah, same coursework, but not a specific degree in biology.
None of those degrees are in pharmacology?
Again, coursework.
Well, he
but
had
not a
everything
specific
else.
degree.
None of those are in physiology?
Again, training in my undergraduate work, but not a specific degree.
Kinetic?
And none of those are in medicine?
No, it'd be very light medicine at best, which would be more along the line of first responder. I'm not a clinician in the medical field.
Okay. And as a police officer, you received maybe some more advanced first aid training. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say.
And that was back in the 80s, 90s?
80s, 90s.
Okay. And in all of your training and experience, both government and private, you never worked at some sort of lab testing blood samples?
No, I did a stint at Joliet Forensic Crime Lab, but I was paid by the police agency, not by the crime lab.
And that was more of a observation of how the analyst in that lab did things?
It was training on gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and blood sample analysis.
And that was around maybe 40 hours?
That's about right.
And you talked about being qualified as an expert in several states, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree you've also been excluded as an expert in states as well?
My testimony's been limited, but not totally excluded. Sometimes there's limitations.
So part of your testimony has.
That's it. I'm calling it. 142's next witness. There we go. Now, this is Detective Paula Hoffer, and she brings in the police interview tape of the defendant.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure.
That's okay. I appreciate your effort, but it looks like we have folks that are just fine. So, next witness.
The state calls Detective Paula Hoffa.
Detective, if you come forward.
I do.
I see. All right, counsel.
Detective
Yeah.
Hoffa, can you please state your full name for the record?
I was too, Flash.
Paula
That's why
Hoffa,
How do you spell
I
it?
pulled it.
Paulahoffa.
How are you employed?
I'm a detective with the Village of Heartland Police Department.
How long have you been with the Heartland Police Department in total?
17 and a half years, approximately.
How long have you been a detective there?
Almost 10 years.
And prior to that, what was your position?
I was a patrol officer.
Hey, Tan.
And can
Hello,
you tell us
darling.
about your basic training in order to become a police officer?
I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and then I went to the police academy.
And you graduated from the police academy?
I did.
And since you graduated from the police academy, did you become a certified law enforcement officer?
Yes.
Did you maintain that certification up until today?
Yes.
And in your role as a detective, what kind of investigations do you do?
I am the only full-time detective. It's a small agency, so I do all of the investigations. However, I do specialize in sensitive crimes, crimes against children, and death investigations.
And did you eventually become involved in an investigation involving Kevin Sehmer on around June 17th of 2023?
Yes.
How did you get involved?
The morning of June 18th, 2023, at approximately 2 a.m., I was contacted by my deputy chief on my cell phone, and I was advised of this call, and he asked me to come in and to start working on it.
Okay. And when you came in and worked on it, first of all, were you able to identify Kevin Sehmer?
Yes.
And how did you go about that process?
There was a phone number that had been given during the course of the night of June 17th at the festival, and the officer had found the phone number, gave it to me, and then we put it into our in-house police computer system and got the name of Kevin Sehmer, having prior contacts in Waukesha County at an address in Brookfield.
The city of Brookfield?
Correct.
Okay. Did you try to call that number?
Yes.
Did you receive a response from calling it initially?
No.
After that, you learned that he lived in Brookfield, is that true?
Yes.
And you heard the specific address, right?
Yes.
And at some point, did you go to that address?
I did, along with my third shift lieutenant.
Did anybody else meet you there?
Yes, the city of Brookfield's third shift officers met us there as it's their jurisdiction.
About what time did you go over to Kevin Sehmer's address?
We arrived at approximately 5:23 a.m.
On what day?
That would be Sunday, June 18th.
And when you got there, what did you do?
We knocked on the door. My lieutenant was knocking on the door rather loudly for several minutes. I noticed there was a vehicle in the driveway, so I ran the license plate. I then also started calling Kevin Sehmer's cell phone and texting.
At 5:23 a.m. as you're at his residence, did you ever receive a response at the door?
No.
When you did anybody respond to the door?
No.
Okay. Did you eventually leave the house?
Yes.
Okay. And after that, did you ever receive phone contact from Kevin Sehmer?
Yes, I believe it was around 10:56 a.m. on Sunday, June 18th. He called back my work cell phone.
Okay. And did you talk with him about this incident over the phone in detail?
It was very high level, very brief information.
Did you have Mr. Sehmer come in for an interview?
So at that time, I was already responding back home to my residence, and he said that he wanted to talk, and I said, okay, I need to make some arrangements of either me going back into work or having another officer respond in to do the interview. And so then I started responding back into work and calling some of my bosses. And then Kevin called me again somewhere in between 11 a.m. and noon and wanted to know what was going to happen. And then that's when I made the arrangements that he should just come to the Heartland Police Department to speak with me.
And at the Heartland Police Department, is there an interview room that's able to both video and audio record everything?
Yes.
And is that the room you use?
Yes.
So first of all, Kevin Sehmer comes to the police department, right?
Correct.
And you meet with him.
Correct.
Do you see that Kevin Sehmer that you met with here in court today?
Yes.
Where is he seated? What is he wearing?
He's seated in front of the blue Kleenex box, and he's wearing a dark gray suit and glasses.
That's at the record reflects identification of the defendant.
Objection.
No.
Identification established. Next
All right.
question.
And then you guys go into the interview room.
There we go.
And you may publish. Hold on.
Yep. No, you got it. You gotta go to the end.
Want to restart it?
Yep.
Looked like you had the mic off. Go ahead.
See, we're not the only ones with IT difficulties.
Turn up the,
Turn it up more. Restart.
okay. To make the record clear again, Exhibit 24 is on the screen. I request to republish this to the jury now.
I've already granted that. Go ahead.
It's not on the screen is what I'm saying.
Oh, thank you. Turn it on. There we go.
Okay, thank you, Judge. And now I will actually really play it, starting at 00.
I'm like, oh, we're just doing small talk and stuff. And then she
Can you all hear that?
They introduced me to the two guys.
Okay.
I might boost that a little bit.
So I don't have any idea what their names were.
Yeah.
And but I could tell that they were pretty intoxicated.
Okay.
And he had tattoos all over.
Okay.
Now, and I did make a comment. I said, we were talking about tattoos before, which we were.
Okay.
And because she was saying Tom's religious and so is this Lori.
Okay.
So, and I just said, yeah. A long time ago, somebody had said to me that if you get a tattoo, that you're marking out God's work,
Okay.
and it's a sin. And I mentioned that to the guy, and he's like, you must be one of those fucking Catholic boys.
Okay.
And I said, no, as a matter of fact, I'm Lutheran. And I said, but and he was just. We instantly did not hit it off, if you will.
Okay.
So I got my drink. I think I had maybe one sip out of it, and that was it. I put it down, and then she introduced me again to the guys, and then her girlfriend. And then when I mentioned about the tabs, he came over to me and he's like, "Yeah, look at these babies, And he goes, "I got one of my wife naked, and she's got her boobs." And he's like this, going like this and pushing them together.
Okay.
And I'm like, I didn't say a word. I just said, I'm thinking of myself impressive. And then again, you could tell there was tension between us and stuff. So when he called me a Catholic boy, so it's that kind of didn't go over real big, but
So were you upset by that comment that he made?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't. I was just telling, maybe it wasn't appropriate, but I was just making a comment about tattoos, like what I learned from years ago.
So when you said you were upset, then did you start yelling at him?
No, I just said I'm Lutheran, and and that's when things got a little blurry because it was a little loud in there, and he was saying things, and I was saying things, and I'm like,
all right, I just looked it up. According to the Lutheran witness, you shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead or tattoo yourselves. I am the Lord. That is the Lutheran belief. And they believe that it is proper or scriptural to offer prayers to saints. Oh, wrong one. It's historically, they've understood having marks on your skin as a warning against pagan practices of mourning. There you go. I didn't know that. I wondered why you had an issue.
I said, why don't you go outside, practice falling down? Yeah. Kind of getting around. I'll be out there in a little bit,
Okay, so you guys were all like talking?
Yeah, just talking shit, guys.
So both talking shit to each other?
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, they were being judgmental.
And then you said, right, you just go down and fall down?
Yeah, just why don't you practice falling down? I'll be right out there, And he had said something to me, like fuck you, this and that, and I don't even really recall now. I'm being honest with you, I don't really recall using any swear words or anything like that. I was still in control of what was going on, but I had that feeling with him. I did not like him from the get-go. And
you know his name?
I don't know. And so then his wife takes them and takes both of them because they're inebriated and takes them outside the thing to cool down and whatnot.
Okay.
Cool down.
I'm sitting there talking to her about Tom and then her girlfriend and stuff. just us two
Yes.
inside.
Because you're talking to Laura then?
Laura and this other, her girlfriend. And, you know, and like, and I mean, I said, like, what's his problem or whatever.
Okay.
And,
What's
then
his
all of a sudden
problem?
he comes back in the bar and says some more shit to me, to everybody real loud.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what he said, but it was directed towards me. And then I kind of lost my cool, and I say lost my cool. I just, what did you say? And then I went outside. The girls tried to just, you know, say,
Yeah.
just, you know, they're drunk, you know, blah. And I'm like, well, and I swear to you on my dad's grave and on my kid's life, I went outside and his friend and this guy had stools
Okay.
in their hands, and
So the guy and his friend had stools?
yeah, they're up in
And
the air
both
like
of them
this,
had stools
you
in
know.
their
And I
hands.
said, what did you say? And you know, then you know, now like, now you're gonna DM me with a stool. I'm not saying this, but I'm
Right,
thinking,
right.
oh, I'm gonna get knocked at neck, you know, with a stool.
Okay.
And two stools. So, but so the one friend, he tried to hit me with a stool first, and I don't know really what happened, but all I did is block it, and that was it. And I didn't touch him. I didn't say anything to him, nothing.
Okay.
Then the other guy, the husband, he comes and he winds up and he's gonna not, and I don't know what the hell happened with me if I like got some almost, it was like second part or something. I just held my hand there and I just pushed him with the stool.
I just held my hand
I
up.
just pushed him away.
Okay.
He fell over
It was
onto the
innocent.
ground, and then I left. And I'm like, oh, we're just doing
Okay. Dr. Papa, you were able to observe that entire clip.
Is that having poop thrown at you? A cable fight? It certainly wouldn't be a freshly smelling fight.
Yes. So at the end there, Mr. Sehmer says, I pushed him with that stool in his hand and I just pushed him away. Correct.
Mhm.
Did you ask Mr. Sehmer if he ever punched Mr. Davies or him?
Yeah, several times.
So there's just one other thing I want to clarify from this clip. At the beginning, Mr. Sehmer is talking about Tom.
Yes.
Who's Tom?
That is, I'm sorry, that is the friend that he came out to Heartland with.
And Tom Knopp?
Knopp.
K-N-O-P-P?
Correct.
And you spoke with him later?
Yes.
He also talked about Lori at the beginning. Do you know who he was referring to?
Yes, her name is Lori Jacobs.
Okay, it's a completely different person.
Correct.
Not Laura.
No.
So you did ask him about hitting Josh.
Yes.
So now I'm going to ask to take that down, ask to not publish to the jury right now. I want to bring up Exhibit 25. Okay, and Dr. Papa, do you see Exhibit 25 on your screen?
I do.
Okay, and this is another portion of your interview with Mr. Sehmer on June 18th, 2023 at the Heartland Police Department.
Yes.
And this appears to be a fair and accurate copy, again, of part of this interview.
Yes.
I would move Exhibit 25 into evidence and request to publish. I would also note this is a short 30 seconds.
Over objection, the court will grant the receipt into evidence and you may publish.
But it was open hand. I do remember that it was open hand, but I don't recall him, and I do not recall hitting him in the face whatsoever. I recall not hitting, but pushing the stool, period, into him, and then he fell over.
So you're saying you pushed the stool into the guy and then he went down?
Right.
Okay, did he go down at a pretty rapid rate?
Yeah, real easy.
Okay, and Dr. Papa, you heard that clip, right?
I did.
And Mr. Sehmer is now saying he pushed the stool into the guy and the guy went down
Yes.
at a pretty rapid rate.
Correct.
I'm going to ask to take down publication to the jury, and I have one more clip here on it. I'm going to bring up Exhibit 26 now. Dr. Papa, do you see Exhibit 26 on your screen?
I do.
And again, is this a portion of your interview with Mr. Sehmer from June 18th, 2023 at the Heartland Police Department?
Yes.
Fair and accurate copy of it as it looks on the screen right now?
Yes.
I would move Exhibit 26 into evidence and request to publish.
Over the same objection, the court will receive Exhibit 26. You may publish.
And to be clear, Detective Opper, about how long is this clip?
1 minute and 7 seconds.
And we can play that.
Period. So I'm going like this right now, and I think he's going like this and trying to hit me, and he's doing, as he's doing that, I luckily got a good, with the open hand, I got a good grip of the, and I didn't grip it, but I mean, I got a good spot on the stool where I just, if you want to use the word violently, that's kind of unfair, but I would say, yes, I pushed him down with one open hand, and he immediately went down the ground, and I didn't say nothing to anybody else. I turned around and I walked away. That was it.
At that point, okay, so right now the only discrepancy is that you say you pushed the stool into him and pushed him down, and everyone else is saying you made contact with his face and he went down.
Yeah, no.
Either way, he went down by your force. Can we at least agree on that? He went down by your force.
Absolutely.
Okay, onto the sidewalk, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Okay. And so Mr. Sehmer agreed with you when he said he was the one causing Josh to fall to the ground.
Yes.
And we can take that down now. Detective Hoff, I just have a couple quick questions for you. You stated that you ran, well, first of all, DOT records, do those indicate height and weight?
Yes.
And you indicated previously you ran that for Mr. Sehmer?
Yes.
And what was the height and weight for DOT?
I believe it's stated Mr. Sehmer was 6 foot 2 inches and 275 pounds.
Now, do you know Mr. Sehmer's date of birth?
I do not.
Do you know about how old he is?
He stated he was 63 at the time of my interview with him.
Now, you were able to observe here during testimony that we just have video evidence from Tabby's Wine Bar and then Hometown Pharmacy, right?
Correct.
Did you or other officers look for other video surveillance that would have showed what happened out on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Where did you all look?
There is BMO Harris across the street on East Capitol Drive from Tabby's and the Hometown Pharmacy. We checked there. We checked there's some apartments across the street and also Palmer's Restaurant, Steakhouse. We went to all those places and checked for video surveillance. There's nothing that Palmer's did have an exterior camera, but it did not come anywhere near to crossing the street onto the other side of East Capitol Drive.
Did you or any other officers find any video surveillance of what occurred on that sidewalk?
No.
I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Thank you. So, Detective, you obviously had a longer interview than we've seen this afternoon, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And one of the things you tried to figure out is why weren't you able to reach him? Is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Sehmer. And he indicated that his phone wasn't with him. Is that right?
Correct.
And they found the text from you and called your office or your department.
Well, what he said was that left his phone at Tom's house. Tom then brought his phone over to Kevin's house and said, hey, the Heartland Police are trying to get a hold of you. And then Kevin contacted me after some time.
All right. And you played a portion of the video where my client indicates that both Joshua and this other gentleman, Brian, came at him with a stool. Is that right?
That's what he indicated.
And then you, after talking to him for a while, he ultimately agreed that, yeah, that probably didn't happen. It was just Joshua.
Correct. I
Is that true?
started, oh, sorry.
Is that true?
Yep.
Okay. So while what you played is what he said initially, he ultimately agreed, no, that's not right. I didn't, he being Brian, the other guy, didn't do anything with the stool. Is that correct?
After I challenged him on that, yes.
Yeah. And in that last clip you played, I wanted to see if I understood your answer. You're not suggesting that my client ever said that he punched Joshua in the face, are you?
What Kevin and I agreed upon is I said to him that the witnesses indicated that he made contact with Joshua's face, and Kevin repeatedly said he did not. He used an open hand and violently pushed him. So at the end, he agreed with me that his force caused Joshua to fall.
The force of him pushing the stool that was being swung at him, correct?
That's what Kevin stated happened.
Yes.
Yes.
The issue isn't what you think. The issue is what he said. And he didn't say, I violently pushed him to the ground. He said he used violent force to stop the the stool from being swung at him. Isn't that right?
There was another point in the interview where he did say that he violently pushed him.
Pushed the stool, not him, his person. Isn't that true?
Yes, we went back and forth on that matter of the stool, where it was, or if Josh had it, all those sorts of things.
You're not suggesting Mr. Sehmer ever said that Josh didn't have that stool, are you?
No.
And in fact, Mr. Sehmer was quite clear that Joshua had a stool that he swung at him.
Yes.
And that all he did was block that stool as it was swung at him. Isn't that true?
I don't know if he ever used the word swung at him, but he said that he pushed the stool into Joshua.
Well, I think we saw it in one of the videos. He actually used that motion, didn't he?
He used those motions, but he didn't say the words.
Well, the motion he was showing you was of somebody swinging the stool. Isn't that true?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Did
It's
Mr.
a
Sehmer ever
swinging
say during this
stool
interview
duel.
that Josh tripped over the stool and fell?
No.
Nothing else?
Any recross on that limited scope?
No, thanks.
All right, you can step down. Ladies and gentlemen, we're close to the,
Alrighty. And with that, the state rests. So that's the end of day 2. We shall move on to day 3. And there is one witness, and then we have about, what is it? Half an hour of state, about half an hour of defense closing, and then another half hour of rebuttal. That's it. And then the verdict. Right, let's get to day 3. 8:30.
just step up there and raise your hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? So
Yeah.
that black bar with the red light, keep your voice directed there and your voice up, all right, sir? All right, counsel.
Thank you. Sir, would you please state and spell your last name?
Last name is Maciejewski, Maciejew.
Put down in chat how long you think it took for the jury to deliberate. Just put a figure down. We'll see who gets the closest.
SKI versus Scott.
And sir, how are you employed?
With the Village of Heartland Police Department.
How long have you been so employed?
23 years.
Okay. Always with that department?
Yes.
Okay. And how long, was that the
No
only law
cheating.
enforcement position? Oh, that seems long.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity as part of your duties to interview some witnesses regarding an incident on June 17th of 2023?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a chance to take a statement from a Mr. John Laporte?
I said no cheating, bro.
I did.
Okay. Do you remember when you did that?
It was sometime in the morning.
Okay. If I showed you your report, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
You may.
108. Could you take a look at that for a minute, please? Okay. Can you tell the jury how it was that you had this interview with Mr. Laporte?
It was a telephone interview.
Okay. And did you have some information that you had received that indicated he might have some information?
Yes.
Can you tell me what Mr. Laporte indicated or told you was what he was doing that night, the 17th?
He was,
This witness has testified. Is this being offered? How is this being offered, counsel?
For the truth of the matter asserted, Your Honor, under section 908.03 sub 8. It's a statement from a officer involved in an investigation, and I believe the statute makes it not hearsay by definition.
Counsel approach.
You're getting warmer. What's that? 903.8. Is that hours? Oh, that must be a sidebar, is it? L. L. La 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 la. Oh,
Did Mr. Laporte indicate to you that Mr. Laporte, had seen of the two people, the one with the shorter man with the long hair, possibly pick up the
Hold.
stool and possibly walk in the direction of the larger gentleman?
What's the evidence code that he quoted? Now that you've actually typed that in chat, you're going to have to reveal what that code refers to now, sir.
Allowing evidence for the truth of the matter.
Okay. That's what the sidebar was it? That'll teach you for not
I
paying
think
attention.
he had to expound on it.
Okay. Not for the truth of the matter.
Gentleman? Did he say that?
Correct. He said
And
it
then
was
he
possible.
said, John wasn't too positive about the stool because everything happened so fast. Is that what he told you?
Correct.
Okay, I have nothing further.
Any cross?
And Mr. Laporte also gave a written statement to your knowledge, right?
Correct.
That wasn't to you, that was to a different officer, is that right?
That's correct.
And in this statement about the stool, he wasn't sure about the younger male with the stool.
That's correct.
And you also went and spoke with the owners of Tabby's and getting video surveillance and things like that, correct?
I spoke to the owners of Tabby's on the phone.
Okay, who are the owners of Tabby's?
Mind if I?
Is your report still up there?
Yeah.
If your report refreshes your recollection, that's fine, but read it to yourself. And then I'll ask the question again.
Okay.
So Kevin's not the owner.
Okay.
He must be a
Who are the
regular.
owners of Tabby's Wine Bar?
Sean and Tabitha McBride.
Not Mr. Sehmer.
Correct.
I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
All right, officer. May this witness be released?
He may, Judge, and I'm moving 108 into evidence. That portion of it that we just referred.
Before he leaves, then, do you want to have him identify 108, please?
Yes,
And with that, the defense rests.
I think the bar is still going to get sued for over serving them.
Well, yeah. Well, not Josh was drinking at the festival. He'd only just got into the bar. Remember, he was
Yeah,
at the
but
music festival.
A good lawyer will get him.
What was I going to say? I've completely forgotten now. Oh, well, they're not going to get their what is it? Their cleanliness certificate because of the cobwebs over the camera, and they probably won't get public liability insurance ever again. So, yes, the defense has rested. They had two witnesses, that one and the drug and alcohol consultant. So, next, closing arguments, state's up. 1 hour and 30 seconds. There we go. And go.
Please be seated, everyone.
I don't think so.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the point of closing arguments from the attorneys. The first closing argument will be given by the state.
I don't know if I need it. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for your service in this trial. I'm glad we were able to wrap it up a little bit quicker. Got it now?
Yeah, I think it's on. Tap it.
Testing.
I can hear you, so that sort of tells me it's on. Go ahead.
Or I speak loudly, yes. So again, thank you very much for your diligence in paying attention to this trial and the facts. I know the testimony wasn't always the easiest. First of all, it could be emotional at times, but second of all, I'll be the first one to stand up here and tell you we have 4 different people seeing 4 different things at 4 different times, right? That's human life, right? We've all experienced this. This isn't a Hollywood movie script where they're going to come in and perfectly match because they're seeing different things. They're viewing things from different viewpoints, right? And let's not forget the violent attack that they had just witnessed and the trauma and the shock that their brains were undergoing at the time they're witnessing this and then trying to recall it. And of course, there's been some passage of time, it's been about a year. So all of that leads to this situation we have here where we have different versions of events. But the question is, are they credible? Did you believe these 4 people who came in and told you about what they remembered and how this played out to the best of their ability, right? And same with the videos. You know, I surely wish we had a better quality video outside on the sidewalk, but we don't. So we presented to you the best that we have, and we presented a couple different versions that the crime lab was able to enhance. Whether you find those useful or not is entirely up to you to decide. But we're not relying on just one witness or one video, right? It's the whole entire series of events and the recollection of the witnesses for you, asking to piece together, can you clearly make a determination here as to what happened, okay? So I'm very grateful that you were patient and paid attention, because you're gonna have your work cut out for you. I'm not gonna stand here and say, this is an easy case, this is an open and shut case, and you know, should you take you 10 minutes to deliberate? I would never say that. And certainly on a record like this, we have a lot of different viewpoints and a lot of different information to consider. So I appreciate that you're willing to do that work, and we're grateful for your service here. I want to start out by just talking a little bit about the events that we have been discussing here for the last 2 days. And I'm going to start where we ended actually with our case, and that is the words of Kevin Sehmer, right? The question still remains, why any of this happened? We still have never.
Well, hello. It's a Gabby sandwich.
I just came in real quick to say hi to everybody, and I'm going to be going soon to the stupid city.
Do you not like taking the trip?
Well, I grew up in the city, so I just I would never drive in the city. I would just take the train into the city. So whenever I do have to drive in the city, it's like so aggravating for me because I just can't stand.
Why is it?
Well, Providence is not that far from me. It's like maybe 10 minutes away, but it's just annoying right now because Rhode Island has this like crazy bridge thing going on. Half the bridge is closed, so it's like so much traffic, and it's raining here, so Providence floods a lot now. So you have to like be careful where you're going, and people just don't know how to drive.
Well, I'm looking forward to your narration.
Yeah.
My husband loves it too. He thinks I'm hilarious.
Well, you make sure you drive safely in that wet weather.
All right. Well, I just wanted to come on and say hi.
Hi. You gonna stick around for a second, or are you gonna go?
No, I'm gonna get going. But I wanted to make sure that Bob knows to behave because I know everything. I know, and I'll see everything, Bob.
I see unalived people.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right, have yourself a lovely evening.
All right, you too.
And
bye,
enjoy your Thai food.
Oh, I will. Trust me. I'll take a picture of it and put it up on Discord.
Get sticky rice.
Good.
Yes.
Oh.
Have a good time.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye, Alan. Bye. All right, AJ, we are just starting the closing arguments from the state. They're about 4 minutes in.
I found an answer to that. No one was able to tell you why Mr. Sehmer was so upset about the choice.
We've got about an hour and a half. So half an hour of state closing, half an hour of defense, and then half an hour of rebuttal. I'm going to skip the jury instructions, and then the verdict is pretty much 2 minutes on the video. That's it.
Of Josh Davies to tattoo his body. What difference does it make to Kevin Sehmer? We have no idea. But seemingly that was the underlying cause of this entire incident, is that immediately upon seeing Joshua Davies, he took exception to his appearance. He told Detective Hoffa in his interview that he didn't like him from the start. And I think that's readily apparent from the video inside Tabby's wine bar, that immediately upon meeting Josh, he's making derogatory comments to him. You're a sinner. You've not done
Bry
God's
one.
work. You're going to hell. That's not a friendly interaction between two people who have just met out on Saturday night trying to enjoy a really very common activity that we all participate in. Hey, it's summer, finally. It's June 17th. Let's get outside. Let's go to a band. Let's have a couple beers. Let's enjoy our friends, right? And to walk into that bar.
It's a 2-minute video. That's all it takes.
Trying to meet up with Laura and meet Mr. Sehmer for the first time. What the heck happened? Well, he ran into Kevin Sehmer. That's what the heck happened to Josh. So Kevin Sehmer gives an interview to Detective Hoffa. I'm going to play a little clip of it for you. I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is, I'm sorry, can you turn on? So this clip that I'm going to play right now is from State's Exhibit 24.
Presentation. Don't sink to the level.
And I lost my cool, and I lost my cool. I just, what did you say? And then I went outside. The girls tried to, say, they're drunk, and I'm like, well, and I swear to you, on my dad's grave and on my kid's life, I went outside and his friend and this guy had stools in their hands, and
so the guy and his friend had stools.
Yeah, they're up in the air like this. And I said, what did you say? And then, now like, now you're gonna DM me with a stool. I'm not saying this, but I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna get knocked in there, with a stool. And 2 stools. So, but so the one friend, he tried to hit me with a stool first, and I don't know really what happened, but all I did was block it, and that was it. And I didn't touch him. I didn't say anything to him, nothing. Then the other guy, the husband, he comes in, he winds up and he's gonna, and I don't know what the hell happened with me if I it was like second power or something. I just held my hand there and I just pushed him with the stool in his hand, and I just pushed him away. He fell over onto the ground, and then I left.
So let's unpack that a little bit. There are multiple lies or falsehoods stated by Mr. Sehmer in that statement when he's being questioned by Detective Hoffa. It's not in this clip, but remember he started out by claiming both guys were drunk. They were pretty intoxicated, he said. Well, the record's quite clear. Brian Richardson had 1 beer the whole night. You can see Brian in the video. He is not impaired. He's not intoxicated. But Mr. Sehmer wants to make it seem that way because that's to his benefit, right? I got attacked by 2 drunk guys. So he embellishes, he lies, he misdirects, whatever word you want to use. He's not being truthful with Detective Hoffa. Then he says, I walk outside and both guys have a stool above their head. 2 stools. He doubles down on it. He goes back to that later. 2 stools I'm confronted with. That never happened, ladies and gentlemen. Not one witness, not one piece of videotape shows Brian Richardson with a stool in his hand ever. But he's got to say that, right? Because that makes it better for him. Well, I had no choice. I had to go after these guys. 2 of them came after me, and they both had stools. So he's got to make that up. Then he says, Brian tried to hit me. Brian never tried to hit Mr. Sehmer. Nobody saw that. That's nowhere in any video. Then he says, the husband, Josh, he came in and he really winds up. Those are his exact words. He really winds up. And I was able to just push him away. And he fell down and I left. Nobody, not one witness on that sidewalk saw Josh making a motion like this. Not one. It's not in the video anywhere. Now you can say, well, maybe it happened back closer to the Tabby's door and it's not on the video. John Laporte would have seen it. Brian Richardson would have seen it. Josh Davies would have seen it. His own wife came here, courageously told you those events that night. And she told you, yeah, I did see Josh with the stool and he had it up here. Never did she describe a swinging motion. Nobody did. It didn't happen. He's got to tell these stories so that it looks good for him. Well, I had no choice. I had to punch him. or push him, as he would say. Nobody has Josh swinging a stool. In fact, I'm gonna play another excerpt for you.
Yeah. Go to dinner, Gabby. I just did grammar.
No.
She's live in 8 minutes, so pop and say hi.
I just lost my cursor here. You can? There it is. Okay, thank you. This is Exhibit 8. This is the video from Hometown Pharmacy. This is the original version, not anything changed by the crime lab. Close out the PowerPoint. I just can't see it on here. Okay. See, we do test these things and I still have user error.
There you go.
Sorry, I just need to duplicate my screen.
Fine.
All right. I apologize, folks. So as I said, this is Exhibit 8. This is the original clip from Hometown Pharmacy, not enhanced in any way.
Right now we have a,
Yeah, when I started.
okay, I was worried about the traffic call.
Thank you. I started it at the beginning. And I paused it at 12 seconds. Through the door of Hometown Pharmacy, you can now see Josh Davies standing there. I'm going to click it ahead one frame, 13 seconds. Watch his right arm as I click through these frames. His right arm is down at his side right here in this frame. 14 seconds, still down by his side. 15 seconds, still down by his side. Now he makes a step to the right with his feet. And there you can see at 15 seconds, a motion like this with his right arm from his hip area up, right? He is not doing this. He is not doing this. His arm is down near his waist at all times, right before the blow gets delivered by Kevin Sehmer. I'll continue playing. I had paused it at 12, 13, 14, and 15. I'm starting again at 15. There he goes. And there's the follow through from Kevin Sehmer. 100% inconsistent with what he told Detective Opper. He claims he's the guy making this motion. I just went like this and blocked the stool. He did not. That's a follow through, folks, from a right hook. He stepped through it. You see his body turn. That is a solid punch to Joshua Davies' head. That's what that is. He did not make the motion, Josh Davies.
Is that your husband's t-shirt thing, Gabby? I think it is. Oh, Matthew Moore's story about his wife. Okay, sorry. The book. Cool. That's a long link. Obviously, it's on Amazon, but yeah, Matthew Moore was a trial you covered. Yes? Yes.
He's made of.
That's based on a
that.
true story, obviously.
He stepped over. You see his body physically turn. That's the force of the punch. Nobody saw Josh Davies swinging a stool out. It did not happen. Mr. Sehmer, in his interview with Detective Hoffa, is trying to make himself look good. He's trying to justify his actions. He's telling her misinformation, falsehoods, because he wants to say, 2 guys started swinging stools at me and I had no choice but to hit one of them. Now, another thing that was suggested during the opening statement of Attorney Shiro was that, well, there really wasn't a battery at all. We think Josh just tripped on the stool and fell on his own. Nowhere in the video do you see that. No eyewitness described that. They were all asked. Jen was asked, Brian was asked, John was asked. Did you see Kevin trip over anything? No, I did not. I saw Kevin Sehmer punch him in the head and then he dropped to the ground like a house of cards. That's what I saw. He didn't trip. There's no evidence he tripped over the stool. None whatsoever. And in fact, that is directly contradicted by the testimony of our medical examiner, Dr. Vidrzicki. I've only known the woman 30 years. Vidrzicki. Remember how she described the level of force, the acceleration that would have had to have occurred in order for Josh to have the injuries that he did. That is not consistent with the trip, she said, because there would not have been.
Now, this is the kind of closing argument that I like. Not scripted, not reading off, a clipboard because they haven't taken the time just to analyze the case and then present it. She is clear, concise, she's entertaining, she gets her point across. I'm really impressed with her.
And enough acceleration from a simple trip or a stumble. I asked her, how much force do you think would have to be involved for injuries like this to be a pain? And she said, quite a significant amount of force. Quite significant. Remember, she described the hemorrhaging in the brain that was so deep. She said it's actually pretty unusual to see that level of injury that deep in the brain because of the sheer force. Remember, she was using that term, the velocity, the shearing force when that head.
Good morning, Law Kong Express. Can anyone see what she is describing? It's closing arguments. So this is the state's closing arguments on the tattoo punch trial, and she's describing the altercation between the defendant and the victim, because the defendant is claiming that he pushed him, and the witnesses are saying that he was punched. So she's explaining the amount of force that it took for him to have such a deep brain injury with the impact when his head hit the concrete. That's where we're at.
Had hit the ground, sadly, because Josh was unconscious and couldn't brace himself in any way. Fell down. John Laporte described in detail, and I'm sorry because I know this sounds really cold, but he saw Josh's head bounce off the sidewalk. That's exactly what Dr. B said. Remember how she described the injuries in the front of the brain, from the brain hitting the skull in the front? Her testimony, absolutely. And the event as we know it unfolded is that Kevin Sehmer forcefully, violently smashed Josh Davies in the head and caused his injury and ultimately his death. Interestingly, not even Kevin Sehmer told Detective Hoffa that Josh tripped on the stool. So that was new information in the trial. Even Mr. Sehmer never suggested that. He admitted that he pushed Mr. Davies forcefully, and that's what caused him to fall. I'm now going to play a clip from Exhibit 26, in which he expressly.
Period. So I'm going like this right now, and I think he's going like this and trying to hit me, and he's doing that. I luckily got a good, with the open hand, I got a good grip of the, and I didn't grip it, but I mean, I got a good spot on the stool where I just, if you want to use the word violently, that's kind of unfair, but I would say, yes, I pushed him down with one open hand, and he immediately went down the ground, and I didn't say nothing to anybody else. I turned around and I walked away. That was it.
So not even Kevin Sehmer claims this was just a trip or a stumble because Josh was so inebriated, he had lost all of his motor skills. Remember that? By the defense, they brought in Dr. Henson to try and tell you that he had lost his gross motor skills, his fine motor skills, and he was so intoxicated that he couldn't even defend himself. Attorney Zillaby asked him that. Well, if he's this intoxicated, then he wouldn't have an ability to defend himself from a sudden attack, right? And Dr. Henson admitted that. There's no evidence, and you can see the Tabby's video, that Josh Davies was unable to comprehend what was going on around him, that he was stumbling, that his balance was impaired, that he could not function properly, right? Hey, I get it, folks. A .24, yeah, I'm not here to tell you he was stone sober. I'm just here to say it did not have the impact on him that you may expect. You just hear a number. You don't know anything about it. You don't know how much he had to eat. You don't know what his tolerance is. So look at the video with your own two eyes and tell me, was he grossly impaired by his level of intoxication? If so, where is it in the video? In fact, what we see in the video that I just played for you, number 8, is him walking backwards very adequately, right? Backpedaling 5, 6 steps, whatever it is. Is that somebody who is grossly impaired? He's not grossly impaired. He's got a .24 BAC. He is not grossly impaired. You cannot reach that conclusion based on this record. Nobody said it. Nobody. The people that are with him that night, and the video speaks for itself. Absolutely not. This incident is not attributed to Josh's level of intoxication. It's attributed to the actions of Kevin Sehmer. Had Kevin Sehmer not punched him in the head and knocked him out and caused him to fall to the ground and hit his head, he would not be dead. It's just that simple. That's why Kevin Sehmer is charged with felony murder, because he engaged in a felony. That is aggravated battery. He punched Josh in the head. Aggravated battery. And when Josh fell to the ground and hit his head, that's what led to his death. It's his actions, his conduct that caused Josh's death. No other conclusion can be reached on this record. I have an opportunity to speak to you again in rebuttal because it's my burden of proof. And in fact, as Mr. Sehmer has claimed self-defense, I have to overcome that and prove to you this case was not self-defense. So I'm going to reserve some of my comments for my rebuttal closing. There's other things I want to talk to you about, but I think they will be more helpful to you in the context of understanding the defense position that this was self-defense. Thank you.
The next closing statement will be given by the defense.
The state has spent a lot of time trying to make this homicide case about an argument where my client was acting boorishly and inappropriate. I think I told you in the beginning, I didn't think you would find that his behavior was okay inside Tabby's. It wasn't. But this case isn't about bad behavior inside this bar. It's not. Mr. Davies was never injured inside Tabby's. There are really 2 issues. They're complicated, actually, but there's really 2 issues. First, not complicated. Did Mr. Sehmer batter, punch Mr. Davies? That's one issue. If you determine that my client didn't batter him, didn't punch him, then that's it. Then it's not guilty. As simple as that. I think that's what happened here. And I think that's what the evidence shows. But let's just kind of break it down so that you can understand, because it's a little complicated. The second issue is, well, if we thought he battered Mr. Davies, was he acting in self-defense? That is, was he doing whatever he did because he was being assaulted by Mr. Davies? I indicated initially, that is in the opening statement, that this was an argument that had already ended. Now, I'm not asking, nor should I ask, that you not consider the fact that my client had been acting badly in the bar. I mean, that's obviously evidence in the case. It's, however, as I again would state, that's not where Mr. Davies was hurt. So they had, that is, Mr. Sehmer and the two women were talking, okay? I doubt they particularly liked Mr. Sehmer, although they did both stay there, and they were talking. It wasn't a long time. At some point, my client, gives a hug to Ms. Burke, but whatever. And they were standing together, the two women. And
got it, Gabby.
If Mr. Davies doesn't come in the bar and start screaming to Mr. Sehmer and to his wife, are you still talking that blah, blah, blah? There's no event. And there isn't. So while it doesn't mean that what my client had done previously doesn't matter, but it is like, well, okay, the facts of this case are that it really had kind of stopped. It didn't make him not a bore in his behavior, but it was over. And then Mr. Davies came back in. I think, based upon the evidence, is that he didn't like the fact that his wife was still talking to him. I mean, I kind of get it. It makes kind of sense. He's probably thinking, why are you talking to that jerk? I mean, he was just rude to me. So I get that. I mean, I do. I'm not critical of Mr. Davies. I'm not. I mean, I get it. He was mad at that point, and probably more mad at his wife, but he was mad. And then when my client hears this, my client then goes out of the bar, and the two women try to stop him. It doesn't quite work. He gets upset, and they try to get him out. I mean, they try to get him to not go out because he had been angry already once. Okay. But then what happens? Okay. Now you're going to see this is what Ms. Burke wrote that night about what happened. And you remember, she was, she didn't go outside like Ms. Davies did. She says, from inside, I saw through the window that Josh had a chair raised above his head. Now, this is not Mr. Sehmer saying this. Okay, let's be clear about this. This is not Mr. Sehmer's statement. This is Ms. Burke's statement, a longtime friend of Ms. Davies and a friend of Josh's. She is the one who says that night he had a chair raised above his head to hit Kevin as he approached. That's her statement, not Mr. Sehmer's. I think I overheard someone say he has a chair or he's going to hit him with the chair. Again, this is Ms. Davies and Josh's friend. That's what she saw that night, not Mr. Sehmer. She saw it that night. Now, Ms. Davies, she says that her husband picked up a chair or a stool to defend himself. And she's, not very happy with Mr. Sehmer at this point. And she says, the man who I know as Kevin ran after him screaming at my husband about God and tattoos. My husband defended himself and picked up a chair or a stool to defend himself from this crazy person who went after him for no reason. Okay. Well, what does that mean? Well, it is that night. And I do understand that she was upset. Okay. This was, in fact, traumatic for her. Her husband was now in a hospital while they're doing, that is, medical professionals are doing things to help him. She has an opportunity to write this statement out. Now, and I understand that people, when they're upset, maybe they're not as clear as we'd like. But what's disturbing is that what she should have been upset about, if her current story is true, that is, if she believed, based upon what she saw, that Mr. Sehmer punched her husband, causing him to go to the ground, is it reasonable? Is it in our life experience that you would exclude the single most important fact of this incident, this thing that has put your husband in the hospital, that you would not include what it is that she now says is the reason he was in that hospital, the punch? Now, with all due respect to Mrs. Davies, this is a difficult circumstance. I get that. But when I asked her about why she didn't include it, she seemed to suggest that, well, I mean, I thought we were all going home. That's kind of what she said. That's really not unreasonable. I mean, not only is it not reasonable, it's kind of ridiculous. It is impossible to believe that that's the excuse that you didn't write. He punched my husband. Had she really seen him, my client, punch her husband and has him go to the ground, it would be the single most important thing she wanted to make certain that law enforcement knew. He punched him, but she didn't. She went part of the way and said that he picked up a stool to defend himself, which is like what Ms. Burke said. I mean, the two women there both say the same thing. He picked up this stool. And I think Ms. Davies says he had it up here by his head. Ms. Burke said it over his. I don't know that it really matters, okay? But if we take, for example, Ms. Davies' statement, it's here by, kind of above his shoulders. And she also, having acknowledged that he did that, she also in her statement doesn't say that he chucked, I think was her word. I hope that's right. But something like he chucked the stool at Mr. Sehmer. Now, again, just as it is difficult to understand or find credible that you would do this, you would write this statement and not include that he, Mr. Sehmer, punched it. It's also difficult to understand how you're actually writing about the fact that he had this stool to defend himself and not say, well, how did he do that? It is kind of an interesting absence, okay? Now we have the, I'm not including that he was punched, even though I'd seen it supposedly, but I'm not going to include what he did with the stool or chair. Everybody thinks it's a metal stool. So instead, she waits till the trial, not in her statement, to say, well, he just chucked it. Well, you would have said that night. Yeah, he had a chair, but he just threw it on the ground or threw it towards him, but didn't do anything. I mean, she says to defend himself. Well, okay, how? Now, it doesn't matter that she doesn't have all the details, but the two important details are, one, say that your husband was punched by my client, and two, and what he did with the stool that he was defending himself with. So those two witnesses, state seems to suggest, tell the same story, and they kind of do. The story, though, is that Mr. Davies had a stool and used it to defend himself. And in fact, somebody even screamed, he's going to hit him. I mean, that's what they said that night. That's what they said that night. It's a different story now, but I get that. But the government has to prove this case. And I'm sorry, it's a bit odd to suggest, well, I know this is really complicated. And I mean, they're all telling different stories. As if in our system, you can convict somebody of a crime, a serious crime, even though, well, nobody really knows what happened. They don't really know because they all saw things and all different things. And yeah, that's okay. Well, is it? Is it okay that they can't tell a story that makes any sense? Some of it is just simply not sensible. But that's what the state is asking us. Now, the other thing that's a little odd is that Ms. Davies, again, I'm not trying to be mean to her, she says that she was actually right with my client. I mean, with her husband, and she was right next to him. Now, you're going to see these videos because I'm going to play them because they really kind of matter. What you're not going to see is Jennifer Davies anywhere near there. I mean, nowhere near her husband. I mean, she's just not there. Now, one of the witnesses says, well, she never came out, but she's not there, okay? Which is a little odd because given what you're going to see and already have seen in these videos, you're going to see that Josh does kind of launch himself. I mean, he look at it, so you can see he literally is launching himself. And he then, something happens and he goes down. Now, the state can say, yeah, there's the follow through of a punch that we can't actually see. I don't know. I don't know how much counsel knows about boxing, but it's not like that. So she was right there. Presumably, if she were right there, you remember how we see he just goes down, she'd be right there. And there are reasons that we would think, one, she wasn't there, and two, if she was, we'd have seen her, but she wasn't. So the videos, and we're going to play them, and I'm not going to play just one, and I'm not going to play the first one. We're going to use the enhanced slow one, okay? Because I want to show you some stuff, okay? And I think it would be fair to say that any of us who have been dealing with this, and now you folks, have to deal with these videos, and they are hard, okay? They're hard. They're hard because you're looking at various different things. You're trying to look and see where maybe somebody's legs are, where somebody's hands are, where their head is, where they are, where they're moving. But I just want to show you these videos because you really need to see these. And with all due respect, the prosecutors claim that, and this shows it all. Well, it does, but it doesn't show the battery that you're saying. That isn't what we're going to see. You can pretend you're seeing it, but you're not. So let's just take a look at it, if I may, okay? And I apologize, you're probably sick of seeing these, but they are important, okay? And without seeing them, it's hard to judge this. All right. Now this is the enhanced, okay? They made it better, so make it easier for us to see. And then you're gonna play that, and then I'm gonna play it where it's slowed, okay? So you get to see the same thing, but you're going to see it first fast, real time, and then half time. Okay? So if you can play
Judge, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you please tell us what exhibit numbers you're displaying?
This is exhibit 12.
I'll put it back on
Exhibit
normal
12.
speed so we can watch the video at the right.
Now, what we just saw was a couple of things. And I don't expect you to see everything you've seen, but we've seen a couple things. We clearly see Josh moving backwards, right? I mean, there's no question about that. And then he does seem to move a little bit to his right. And then we see him kind of launch himself. Can you back this up? Have this backwards? See how it looks like he's going up, and it does appear, and I can't tell you I'm sure, okay, I'm not. It does appear that both his legs seem to leave the ground.
Mm.
And then the next thing is, shortly after that, he is falling kind of to his right and down. Now, I'm gonna have her play this, the next one, which is what number?
Exhibit 13.
Number 13. This is the half speed.
It's almost like he steps over him.
Thank you. Okay, so again, it's hard because even slowed, it's still a little complicated. And obviously looking through these windows, we know isn't perfect. I mean, it's just not perfect. So, but again, it does appear that, well, one thing that's utterly clear is that this isn't Josh standing there and getting punched. This is Josh moving. I'm using the word launching because his legs seem to get off the ground. Now, I'm going to tell you why I think he did that in a moment, but that's what the videos show. Okay. Now,
bye, Gabby. Have an awesome evening. Ta-ra. See you tomorrow. It does look like he fell
of
forward.
all the witnesses,
It almost looks like he's launched himself forward with the chair and sort of lost his balance, and Kevin's come in almost with an uppercut, which is like propelled him upwards, and he's become unconscious and hit the ground again. It's kind of what it looks like to me, but it's hard to say. Have an awesome time, Gabby.
had some information. All but Mr. Richardson says that Josh had a stool at some point.
But yeah,
Obviously
I agree,
both
Bright. Looks like he falls forward.
Mrs. Davies and Ms. Berg are very clear that, yeah, he had it. They hear people yelling that he's got a chair. Mr. Richardson, no, he never had a chair. Now, he has had some issues in the past, and you are able and can consider that incredibility. But it doesn't, you don't get to say, well, I still want you to consider his testimony. You believe him, even though what he's saying is different than everybody else. We can't do that. We can't ask you to plug this into make you computers and say, all right, what does all this mean? Well, the state has to prove this case. It's not just like, oh, I just figured it out, but it's all okay. Well, it's not okay if you're trying to prove that my client committed this crime, because it's not what they're saying he did. Now, Mr. Laporte originally said that possibly Joshua had a stool or a chair, I think a stool, but later he said, no, that didn't happen. It's a little odd because you would expect him even to say, well, I wasn't sure, but now I'm sure he didn't have it. But in any event, his testimony is kind of not helpful to anyone, quite frankly, because he puts this whole event a half a block away. And if that were true, there wouldn't be any activity over here if he'd be way to the left of this, and it just didn't happen. I don't know why he recalls things the way he does and why he claims he saw what he saw, but it's so out of the range of anybody else's version of what happened. And it is utterly refuted by this video. Whatever Josh and Mr. Sehmer are doing, it's not a half a block the other way. I mean, it's right there. So don't know what we can say about his testimony other than it doesn't support the state's burden of proof in establishing guilt. Now, do you remember when Mr. Armstrong talked about absolute difference? It's a little, let's look at absolute difference. What he said, and this is the dark one, the two dark videos, okay? What he says that objects that are darker, that are stationary, and they get lighter if they're in motion, okay? It's weird, I don't completely understand it, but that's what he said it does. So I wanna show you these for a minute. There's two, okay? And I'm gonna show them to you. They're in different speeds. There's a regular speed and the partial speed, okay?
This is exhibit 14.
Thank you.
Go ahead, keep going. Okay, now, one thing that is pretty clear already, just even in full speed, is that this is where Mrs. Sehmer said she was, and there's nobody there. And if she had been there, she would have had to have been moving around here. She would have been very clearly a moving object, a moving person, okay? She's not there. That's relevant because it's kind of an odd thing to be so wrong about when she was there. She just wasn't there. Right now, I gotta clear this. All right. Now we're gonna play it slower. What number is this, please?
This is exhibit 15.
All right, watch it down. No, go back. Right there.
Starting from 4 seconds.
4 seconds. Stop. Back it up. Just
I'll do it.
tap, tap, tap. Stop.
Mhm.
Stop. Okay. Don't run it at their speed.
Mhm.
Okay?
Okay. Would you like me to slow down?
Yes. Just gotta back it up now. Stop. This. See that? That's it's now lighter because it's moving. Something has just moved, quite frankly, right at its feet. And there's something else that we see, which is this. Okay? You see how there's light there? We went from it being kind of dark. I mean, it's all moving, but that is a moving object. That's why it looks lighter. That is the stool. Can I be 100% certain? I'm not going to tell you that. All I know is that Mr. Armstrong told us that's how this works. That if something is moving, it is lighter than something that is just stationary. And we've now seen two things. We saw this thing. We've seen that thing kind of come down. It looks kind of towards Josh's feet. And up here is something. Now this lighter thing is here. Now, go ahead and play this video. I think I have to clear this. Thank you. We have now seen two things from absolute difference. That's what they call it, so that's what it is. And what it is showing us, two very significant facts. This is the government's evidence. This is the government's expert brought this in. And what we've now seen are two really important facts that I think are somewhat irrefutable. One, something has come at his feet. And two, as he's lunging, as I called it, we see movement. We see this lighter, whatever they call it, which is something that happens when something's in motion. And what's in motion here is not, as counsel says, him raising his hand. No, it's him with the stool in the position, quite frankly, that his wife had put in his hands earlier. Remember, we said he was like this. And what Ms. Burke says, he had over his head. Now, of course, he can move. But the notion, when she said it was like at this is exactly what we just saw. That's what we saw. So the videos do show that, one, Mr. Davies lunged at him. Two, that Mr. Davies had something in his hand, and it's the stool. Now, I'm not going to claim that I know everything about this absolute difference, but I know what he told me. And what he told me makes it clear that what my client said is accurate. Now, I understand that the state claims, well, this is all Mr. Sehmer's fault. Well, he did get an argument with him. He did act like kind of a jerk. I get that. And then Mr. Davies comes back in and starts, yells at him and reignites this thing. I wish my client hadn't left, but it's not a crime to leave the bar and yell at somebody who just called you a name. But it's not a crime to do that either. Okay. Now, I have to differ with the prosecutor's belief that the medical examiner and Dr. Henson both essentially say, well, it doesn't matter. He was, he really wasn't drunk. I can tell you, I think without fear of contradiction, that no prosecutor in the state of Wisconsin has ever told a jury that a person with a 0.24 blood alcohol level was not impaired. That has never happened, probably in the history of Wisconsin jurisprudence. Nobody would say such a thing. It's laughable. It's quite frankly ridiculous. And it's just a bit offensive considering my client's on trial. And 2.4, come on. He's got a tolerance. We saw him. Well, yeah, we did see him, but it's a video. And two, we don't really hear him say anything other than yelling some profanity. I don't know. I can't say exactly how it affects him, but I know nobody in law enforcement in this state or this country thinks that somebody with that much alcohol is not impaired and is not with less faculties. Now, why does this matter? It's not to make him seem like a bad guy. I don't care if anybody gets drunk enough driving. What difference does it make? But in this case, his effort to try to hit my client with the stool is made more complicated because when Mr. Sehmer blocks it forcefully, he doesn't have the ability to right the ship that he's just started down the path. He's up, his feet are kind of off the ground. He's trying to hit somebody, and that person forcibly resists that. Now, we did talk a little bit about the fact that everybody tolerates things differently, okay? And that's true. But there's a certain level of which, and I think Dr. Henson made it pretty clear that, well, at some point, everybody's impaired. Now, the other thing that's interesting is the medical examiner, she had an opportunity to see all the records, had the opportunity to do the autopsy. What she never provided any testimony about was that there was any injury to the side of Josh's face. Now, the state is arguing that there was this unbelievably hard smash to his face, but not one bit of medical testimony or evidence suggested that Josh had any injuries, not any bruising, nothing regarding this, not a bit. So you can say, well, it was really, it must have been a hard punch because he hit his head so hard. Well, she then suggested and agreed that, well, of course, if somebody is, pushing and somebody pushes back hard, the law of momentum, the law of motion. Okay, you can throw yourself down if you're doing this and somebody's going this backwards, and it appears Mr. Sehmer, being quite a bit heavier, would be in a position to exert far more force than the lighter Joshua. Now, it is pretty hard to argue that my client hit Mr. Davies so hard that he did all this damage, and despite a plethora of medical personnel, nurses, doctors, and the medical examiner had all these records. And nowhere in there does she say, or did she find, that there was some evidence of any injury to his face. Now, given the degree of force that they're claiming my client exerted on his face, not on a stool that he's holding, that's hard to understand. Now,
no, he hit him just behind the ear and broke his, occipital protuberance. I can never say that word. Protuberance.
In Mr. Sehmer's interview, he wasn't utterly candid about everything. I think, but what the state didn't remind you of is that when he initially said there were two people with the stool, that later in in the interview, he said, yeah, you're right. I know, it was just Josh. It wasn't two people. So when he first said it, all right, he said it. I don't know why he said it. It may have been he was trying to protect himself. It may have been that given the circumstance of these two people, I don't know, I can't speculate. But you can't act as if he didn't say that, correct it. He did. He said, no, I agree. It was just Josh. It wasn't both of them with the stool or with chairs. So I don't know, other than the fact that what he said is utterly consistent with absolute difference, I don't know what else he could say. Now, as I indicated earlier, there's really two issues. One, did he commit a battery? Nobody, I don't think, is arguing that a person, whether they claim you provoked it or not, then you're allowed, once you provoke something, you're allowed to get hit in the face with a stool and you're supposed to just take it. You can't put your hand up. You provoked this, so you're going to get what's coming to you. That's not the law. Okay. Now, the issue of provocation is interesting. You know, it's a judgment you'll have to make. Okay. I mean, whether the initial argument where my client wasn't behaving badly, I think is enough to say, well, that's provocation. He doesn't get self-defense. I think most people would hate to think that if I misbehave, 10 minutes later, if somebody, calls me a name and I go want to talk to them about it, even if I'm moving fast, that, well, too bad. You're going to get anything you have. If they want to, they call that too bad. You were a jerk, so you get to hit in the head. I mean, but is it really a battery? I mean, is that reasonable? First of all, is it a battery to block a punch? Is it a battery to stop a stool that's being swung at your head? According to the state, that's not a battery. Or that is a battery, I guess. I don't know. I mean, because they have to prove that he intended to harm. Yeah, that's what a battery is. You caused harm and you intended to. Is it intending to cause harm when somebody tries to hit you with a stool and you block it? That's not intending to harm. That's just stopping something. You go like this. Now, the second issue is, again, so if you say, well, that's not a battery, then the case is over. And did they prove that it was a battery? And remember, as the state acknowledged, they have to disprove self-defense. It's not like I have to prove self-defense. Once this has become an issue, which it clearly is in this case, okay, the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he wasn't acting in self-defense. And I think it's hard to say if somebody hits you with a stool, you can't block it. So, but it's their burden of proof. But I'd like to talk to you about the burden of proof for a minute. The judge is going to give you the instruction. Okay, there's a couple important facts. One, the defendant is entitled to every reasonable doubt if there's one. Okay, that is a reasonable doubt as to what happened. I alluded to this earlier. If the state's witnesses cannot tell the same story, it doesn't mean you can't convict somebody, but it's hard to say, well, I don't have a reasonable doubt about what happened here when I don't get same stories, or where stories change, or locations change. He starts with the presumption of innocence and it remains. And it only stops if after you reviewed everything, you conclude that, well, no, he did this beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, one of the parts of the jury instruction says that if you can reconcile the evidence on any reasonable hypothesis consistent with his innocence, you must find him not guilty. You're not given a choice. If you say, well, we considered this evidence and there's evidence here that seems to suggest, and it's reasonable, that he didn't punch him, that all he did was block this, that's a reasonable hypothesis. Now, is it the only hypothesis? No, but if it's a reasonable hypothesis, and we know that absolute difference makes it a reasonable hypothesis, it's the actual truth, that Josh was swinging something. Now, the issue of this tripping, I have indicated, and I believe, that there are really three principal things that caused this. So, one is that he had left his feet and he was swinging a stool, which was blocked. Smaller force met larger force pushed it away, and he fell. The second is that he was intoxicated, grossly so. Now, again, it's not a judgment on him, but it does make it harder for him to do what he's trying to do physically, and it caused him to go down. And lastly, that there does appear, I don't know if you want to call it a trip or what you want to call it, but absolute zero showed that something came right at his feet, just as about the time he's about to launch. I don't know if that's a trip or that's just another factor, but those are factors that caused him, I think, in part to go down. But the principle is he's trying to swing a stool, and my client blocks it, and in his intoxicated state, he fell. One of the things that the jury instruction says is that we should consider these things, like what is a reasonable doubt, okay? And it's complicated, but I think they do a pretty good job of explaining it. One of the ways they explain it, because they try to do it in a number of ways, one of the ways is this a kind of doubt that would give you pause or hesitation in acting in the affairs of life, okay? And, lawyers both on the state or on the defense or civil litigation, they all kind of can talk about this a bit, not civil litigation, and they say, what are the kinds of things that we consider that are important in life? And would you not pause before you made such a decision? I've heard examples of like, well, if your child needed surgery and the judge and the doctors are saying, well, there's this and there's that, you could do this process, you could do this, or maybe you don't do that. And some people say, well, that's something that's an important affair of life. And would this cause you to say, well, I'm going to pause and hesitate before I make that decision? I don't know if that's completely fair, but it does kind of illustrate how important this is. I mean, it really is important. And that is, before I say guilty, before we say guilty, I need not to have those doubts. I can look, I will examine it all critically, but at the end of the day, you can't say that I'm not in a position where I'm like, whoa,
I'm really pausing on this. I don't know how you get there. How do we get to, he did this? And I don't think.
Is anyone else struggling with this? Shall I move to rebuttal? Have we heard enough of the argument? He's really got not much more to say, has he?
I'm okay with moving on.
I'm not saying. Excellent job. Thank you. How many times can he? Yeah. Let's move. It's not really the most exciting trial. Oh, God. I said let's move on, and I'm about 30 seconds off it. Sorry.
Keep their stories consistent with the state's theory. You have to say no. There's both a reasonable hypothesis consistent with his innocence, and there are many, many reasons to doubt. And I think there are many reasons to doubt, and I'd ask that you find him not guilty. Thank you.
Any rebuttal from the
Come
state?
on.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Opper. Make it quick. Yeah. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess I'll just start by talking about some of the things Attorney Shiro just shared with you. He put up the absolute difference videos, 14 and 15, and he had his paralegal clicking through and showing you, and then he paused it on a certain time. I don't know what the time was, but he paused it at a certain time, and he circled two areas, one up by Josh's head and one at his feet. And he claimed both of those objects were the stool. So I have no idea what he's talking about. He said, look down here. This is the stool at his feet. And then he said, look at this object up here. And he circled that one. That's the stool. That's Josh swinging the stool. I don't know. I don't know who had the stool, where the stool was, who picked it up first. John Laporte was very clear. He said Kevin Sehmer walked out of the bar, grabbed the stool, and threw it in the direction of Josh.
I think the stool was probably in Kevin's undies.
And then I walked out to the curb in the street and picked it up later. Uncontroverted. He never even asked him about it again. There's a stool in here somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. Really doesn't matter. You don't have to sit here in your deliberations and figure out exactly who had the stool, when, and where. You don't, because Mr. Shiro was flat out wrong on one thing. He told you, I can provoke a fight and still claim self-defense. He said that. That is not the law, ladies and gentlemen.
Not bad.
Judge Domino will tell you what the law is after we get done with our comments. It is very plain. He will read this sentence to you.
Today.
A person who engages in unlawful conduct of a type likely to provoke others to attack, and who does provoke an attack, is not allowed to use or threaten force in self-defense. You provoke an attack, you don't get to claim self-defense. So if there is self-defense in this case, you know whose part it's on? Josh's. Josh is using reasonable self-defense. Did he pick up the stool after Kevin threw it at him? Hold it up to try and keep this raging bull away from him? Maybe he did. That would be reasonable self-defense on Josh's part, if he did. You're not going to be asked who picked up the stool, who threw the stool, where did the stool land. You're going to be asked, is he guilty of causing Josh's death? Did he batter him? Aggravated battery in a way that caused his death. That's your question, ladies and gentlemen. There is no doubt, Kevin Sehmer provoked this entire incident.
Me touching last.
It is on. Okay, thank you.
Oh no, not the video again. I thought they were going to play the video again.
Thank you.
Put up number 11. The video from inside Tabby's. We're going to talk about this.
Yeah, she's
This
great.
is the one enhanced by the crime lab where they turned up the volume, so hopefully it's loud enough. Starting at 0. Pausing it at 47 seconds. Joshua Davies just walked away. Kevin Sehmer verbally attacks him the minute he meets him. Why do you have those tattoos? You're going to hell. You're a sinner. Joshua Davies walks away. First attempt by Josh to cool down the situation. Stopping at 103. Aggressive act number 1 by Kevin Sehmer. F you.
And why didn't he say anything about the chick's tattoos? She just showed, like, his wife's tattoos, Josh's wife's tattoos. She just showed him her arm. She's got tattoos as well.
Pointing directly at Josh Davies. Provocation.
Hey,
109. Go outside and practice falling down. I'll be right out there. He has just told you, ladies and gentlemen, in that statement, his intent is to get Josh Davies on the ground. And he's inviting him to fight. I'll be right out. Go right ahead out. I'll be right there. Fighting words from Kevin Sehmer. Aggressive act number 2. 112. Come on, MF. Let's go as he marches over to Josh's position. Look at the reaction of Laura Burke. What the heck is going on? Aggressive act number 3 from Kevin Sehmer, right there. Approaches him. What does Josh do?
shut your fucking mouth.
Josh says, no, stop it. He's not bait. He's not taking the bait. He's not engaging. He's backing down. He is standing down and saying, stop it. No. He never moves a muscle. He looks over his
You'll
shoulder.
find out in about 10
turn around
minutes.
and confront him. He doesn't point at him. He doesn't curse at him. He says, stop it. Is it over now? Nope. Because then Mr. Sehmer says, shut your effing mouth. Aggressive act number 4. Stopped at 132. Aggressive act number 5, 6. Called him a girl, a Karen. I don't even know what that means. Brian couldn't tell us, but he thought it was insulting.
Karen.
Fighting words from Kevin Sehmer. Josh does not respond in kind. Josh stays in his position at his table away from Kevin Sehmer.
Like I said,
Again, my intention, Kevin Sehmer says, is to put you on the ground. Go out there and start practicing. I'll be right out. Provocation. Both of you. Now he's a tough guy. He's going to take on both Brian and Josh. He ain't afraid of that. Both of you go out there. I'll be right out.
Yes, this is the time. Kevin is not the nice comment. Kevin doesn't put up with bullshit.
Aggressive act 9. Kevin doesn't put up with bullshit, pointing at Josh. Josh does nothing. Talking to his wife, agrees with his wife. It's not worth it. I'm going to go outside and wait. .202, in fact, he leaves. That's it. Josh walks away. Never uses fighting words. Never confronts Kevin Sehmer in kind. Now, Attorney Cheryl will tell you, well, that's it. It was over. No reason for Josh to come back in now. That was the end of the dispute. But it wasn't. Absolutely not. Josh is outside now. Next thing we hear from Kevin Sehmer.
It's a pussy.
Fighting words. Is he cooled down? Is it over? Josh is outside. Is he cooled down? Does Kevin Sehmer think it's over at this point? Now that's Laura Burke. She's got 2 drinks in her hand. She told you, I took his drink and I was trying to lead him out the back door because I wanted to separate him. I wanted to get him either on the back patio or back over to beer snobs to his friends. So she's got 2 drinks in her hands. Watch what Kevin Sehmer does.
Hey, daytime. Welcome. Yes, she is. The defense has a good lawyer. Oh, you don't like the prosecutor? Oh, see, this prosecutor is the same prosecutor for the Darrell Brooks trial, and I really like her. I think she's organized. She's direct. She's to the point. She's got everything under control. I like her. But each to their own, my love. Each to their own. Welcome. You come right in at the end. We're nearly finished. It's probably about 5 minutes before the verdict.
Back on the table. Is it over? Is it over? He's not going anywhere. Real easy for him, if it's over in his mind, to just walk out that back door, go back and pick up his buddy Tom, or go back and have a drink with Laura on the back patio. It's not over. It's not over by any means.
I need a seat. Maybe you guys are actually really good. I don't know. 20 years.
$250. Josh is back in the door. Look at his feet. He never even crosses the
Oh
threshold.
my God.
So for people to claim he came back into the bar is really an
Yeah.
overstatement, because he never enters the bar. He opens the door and he says to his
Judge
wife, "Are you
did
still
in the
talking to that
middle.
asshole?" Well, can you blame Josh for saying that at that point? Can you really blame him? What he doesn't do is he doesn't threaten Mr. Sehmer. He doesn't call him any names. He doesn't use any fighting words. He doesn't go further than the threshold. He doesn't charge in, knock over two women, and get in Kevin's face and say, "F you." He opens the door and says to his wife, "Are you still talking to that asshole?" What is Kevin Sehmer's reaction to this?
What did you say?
Is it over?
Charges.
Is it over? Laura Brooks got him by the arm. Stop. No, no. Jen's in front of him, trying to block him. Jen, 5'2", petite woman. Kevin Sehmer, 6'2", 275 pounds. It's not over, folks. It's not over for Kevin Sehmer. He's going to go out there and he's going to make sure Josh practices falling down for sure. No. From Jen.
Jay, I'm always arguing with myself in my head, but I'm always right.
Stop. This doesn't have to go any further. It does for Kevin Sehmer. What does he do? Pushes her aside and storms out the door. Now, he would have you believe that at this point, he gets outside.
And two guys are out there with stools, right? That's his original version to Detective Hoffa. I walk outside and there's two guys all armed with stools, all revved up and ready to go. Well, then, Mr. Sehmer, wouldn't you just turn around and
walk back into the bar where you just came from?
For safety? Why would you go out there in the first place? Why even go out there in the first place? But if you did, and you walked out there and there's two guys with stools over their head, wouldn't you just turn around and go back inside if you're not looking for a fight? Kevin Sehmer's looking for a fight. Kevin Sehmer thinks he's a tough guy. He thinks Josh is a little girl. This is provocation, folks. Provocation from start to finish. Charging out that door after Josh. You saw the hometown video. Josh is backing up, trying to get away from this raging bull. And he keeps going. He's afraid. He's afraid for his safety. Why keep going, Mr. Sehmer? Turn around and go back in the bar. Absolutely no explanation for his behavior other than he wanted to hurt Josh. He didn't like him from the start. He didn't like his tattoos. And he's going to be the one to finish this, right? He's not going out the back door with Laura, not returning to his friends. In fact, he ran. He goes up to Josh, punches him in the head, and runs. Leaves his friend behind at the band and gets the heck out of there. And when the cops go to his house at 5 a.m. to talk to him, doesn't come to the door. How drunk was Kevin Sehmer? Well, it'd be nice to know if he hadn't run. Police could have talked to him, gauged his level of impairment, maybe asked him to take a breath test. Who knows? We know Laura Brooks said he was drinking all night. Every time she saw him, he had a drink in his hand and he was drinking vodka. Cops knock on the door at 5 a.m. He doesn't answer, so can't view him then. It's not till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon that he finally shows up at the police department and they can get eyes on him. Well, that's 12, 14 hours later. Kevin Sehmer's the one who's acting like he's impaired. He's belligerent. He's difficult. He's argumentative, and he's right. No matter what anybody says, he's going to get the last word. He's right. This was not self-defense by Kevin Sehmer by any stretch. This is a man looking for trouble. I don't know why. It's absurd. Laura Burke said he was perfectly fine at the band. When I met him out at Beer Snubs, he was a nice guy. We got along. All of a sudden, what switched in his brain? I don't know.
Well, the men went with the women then.
But I do know he attacked Josh Davies outside that bar for no reason whatsoever. I know that he punched him in the head, causing him to fall down with such force that it damaged the inner core of his brain. That's not tripping over a stool. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to figure out why he did it. I don't have to prove a motive. I can't. I can't prove a motive to you.
What was that button? Oh, you're in your PowerPoint. Go ahead.
Looks like me and AJ.
This is
at
the last
start of
picture they
stream.
took. Jen Davies said, there they are at the street party. Man lost his life over what? Don't know. But I do know Kevin Sehmer is to blame for it. Kevin Sehmer is responsible for his actions that night. Kevin Sehmer is responsible for Josh's death. There's no question from Brian, who was there, Jen, who was there, and John, who was there. Kevin Sehmer punched him in the head and caused significant, great bodily harm to him and ultimately death. That's an aggravated battery, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact that death resulted makes it felony murder. Asking you to return a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
All right. We're not listening to the jury instructions. I'm sorry. I made that executive decision at the start of the trial. So we go to the verdict. Ooh. Now, let me get back onto.
Anything the state needs to address before we bring the jury in?
No, stop that. Where are we? Nope, nope. There we go. Open that up, and it starts at 5:30. Can we have a drum roll, please? Drum roll. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Thanks, Brian. Thank you. Thank you. Ready, steady, 5:30. So the jury's coming in. Go. Play.
The defendant is present. I've been informed that the jury has reached a verdict. Before I bring the jury in, and the jury is ready to come in, I'm going to observe, first of all, that this is a case, obviously, where there is understandably high emotion. But I will tell you that this is neither a sporting event nor an opportunity to express oneself. If I have any sense of disruption by any person, I will not hesitate to clear this court.
Not even close, Flash fan.
The sheriff's department that is present. I do not want to hear any audible reaction or response to this process. This process commands respect, and that is exactly what I expect. If you have not yet, please turn off your phones. All right, Madam Bailiff, could you direct the jury in, please?
Grumpy Santa. It's all right. It's nearly over.
All right.
I don't even think I've seen Kevin's face this entire trial. Except from the black and white video.
Please be seated.
Oh, there we go.
Is
It's half a
you the
face.
jury foreperson? Has the jury reached a verdict? I'd ask that you hand that verdict to the bailiff, please. Court is going to ask the clerk to read the verdict.
Yes, yes, he's there. That was him then.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of felony murder, aggravated battery with the intent to
What?
cause bodily harm as set forth in count 1 of the information.
Is there any request to poll the jury?
No, Your Honor.
And that's where the feed ends. That's it. Done. Bang. And it was over. Do, 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 do.
So was that the only count?
Yes, yes. Single count felony murder.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. They had lesser included, but didn't get
Yeah,
there.
because I would have. I still don't think it was M. I would have went for man stuff,
Mm.
but I'm not on the jury.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the one of them was married to the decedent. The other one was single, but Kevin was trying to set up the other chick with one of his mates. So I don't know, I think an angry drunk, basically, And it's a shame and a waste because Josh was only 39 with 3 kids. So, yeah, just a tragic waste. So,
always is.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Tomorrow, there's not a great deal happening, but I've got. I'm going to cover the Chad Dolman case because there's been some evolution in that case in the last few days. His trial was set, I think, to go in May. And they postponed it to October. And so I was set ready to go. So I've got all the pre-trial stuff, all the background and what have you. And then it's developed since Friday. So I thought that we would follow that from, where'd you go? Follow that back to like full circle tomorrow. This is Chad Dolman is the dad that unalived his 3 young sons. Execution style. So I'm glad it's not going to go any further because it would be horrendous for the rest of the family and everyone else. It's not nice. So I will be covering that tomorrow, same time, same place. And then are you around Friday, Bri? About the same time?
Yes.
By any chance? Well,
Wednesday,
AJ and I were
Yes.
talking before the stream, and we thought we might do something a little bit different on Friday. We thought we might have a bit of a Friday fun day where we each get to pick something really, really stupid, like stupid people doing stupid illegal things. We'd get to pick one story each and present it on Friday and have a laugh for a change.
All right. I'll see what I can dig up.
The funnier, the better.
So hard to find on YouTube.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Did you see what I sent AJ this morning about the guy that got arrested for blowing up toilets?
I did not see that.
Yeah.
I was much too late for that.
Oh, no. This is on Discord.
Oh. Yeah, I still keep forgetting I have that now.
I know.
And I'm still trying to learn how to use it. So
yeah, and ask me because I'm learning as I go. It will be a distraction from the dark topics, and I think it's nice to have a bit of fun. I mean, there's the whole like true crime doesn't just involve trials; it involves a whole gamut of things, and yeah, it'd be nice to focus on something funny.
Yeah.
Something that we all enjoy and have a laugh. So yes, so that is the plan for the rest of the week. We're not going to stream Thursday. AJ's going to have the day off on Thursday. She's been in quite a bit of pain with her back and she's not sleeping well. So we will do tomorrow and Friday morning, and we shall go from there. And then we're going to do some different stuff next week. We both realized that I thought she wanted to do real-time live trials, and she thought I wanted to do real-time live trials. Because I said to her,
well, tomorrow will be a half day for me.
We are only going to limit them to maximum 4 hours. That's it. We're going to count them because neither of us can cope. I can't cope with 8 hours overnight because I'm going to bed at 5 a.m. I can't do it, especially not 2 weeks in a row with it. You know. So we can only do what we can do. So we're going to be more. It's actually going to give us more content because there's some awesome trials that have been and gone that are outside the normal stuff and the different stuff that people have never heard of before, and it'd be nice to get outside the square for a bit, and because that's what we both were interested in doing to start with. So. And instead of having to be on time every day and, wasting half of the time with sidebars and lunch breaks and all that stuff, we can get in all the good bits and keep it to a reasonable time because not everyone's got 8 hours a day to sit and watch. So,
yeah.
So that is the plan moving forward. So it's exciting stuff to come.
Morvie.
All right.
Tomorrow.
Well, yes, certainly will. I'll be here. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for your help, Bri. It's lovely having you here. We really enjoy it. It's good. And I did send you a couple more messages on Discord if you want to have a look later on. And get back to me.
I'll head on over
all right.
there. All right. Goodbye,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all your support. Thanks, Flash Fan. What was that? You could always do class. Yes, we can do anything. We can do cold cases. We can do anything. We can do serial killer, almost like presentations of, we can focus on a particular person or a particular theme even. There is a huge amount of things that we can do. So we're happy to take suggestions as well. If you've got anything, Discord page is the best places for those. So either AJ's or mine, knock yourself out. There is plenty of places to find them. And we shall be delving through all of the available resources that we can and come up with some good stuff for Friday. So I look forward to that. So thank you again for all of you for being here. We really, really appreciate your support, and we love having you here, and we love doing it. So with that, I shall bid you all adieu.
Dee and Debbie here, fill your screen with cheer. Hit like and tap subscribe, join our happy tribe.